declare the meeting reopened. We are on the Program Area 2, Infrastructure for Brisbane, continuation from yesterday evening. Are there any further speakers? Councillor Mackay.
Point of order, Chair.
Point of order, Councillor Landers.
Chair, I have an apology.
Oh, excuse me, yes. Apologies.
Mr Chair, I advise that Councillor Matic will be absent today, and I move that he be granted leave of absence from the meeting.
I second that. I have a resolution from Councillor Landers, seconded by Councillor Owen, that Councillor Matic be granted a leave of absence in today's meeting. All those in favour say aye and raise your hands.
Aye.
Thank you. Please lower them. Those against, no, and raise your hands. The ayes have it. Any apologies? Are there any other apologies? Thank you. All right, I will now call speakers on Program Area 2, Infrastructure for Brisbane. I believe I called Councillor Mackay. Councillor Mackay.
Thank you, Chair. I rise to speak in support of the 2021 Program 2 budget. Chair, an important portion of the works undertaken in infrastructure for Brisbane is the planning and the design of our road network. This financial year, Council will invest in the planning of key corridors and roads across Brisbane. It is this work that will ensure our roads are able to handle the future needs of the city. There's a lot of planning and design that goes in on the background to keep our city moving. Each year, Council's Transport Planning and Operations team conduct a significant amount of traffic modelling to support future project design, coordinates implementation of Council's Transport Plan, provides input into policies and plans by other levels of government, analyses neighbourhood plans from a transport perspective, and assesses development applications. Councillor McLaughlin mentioned that the development of a new program called Coordination of Major Inner City Construction Projects. This is an initiative that I fully support, given major infrastructure projects that are already and will be carried out in Brisbane in the coming years. These are large-scale infrastructure projects that will undoubtedly have impacts to our roads, bikeways, and public transport services. With many of these projects occurring at the same time, the potential impacts need to be properly assessed with mitigation measures put in place to ensure the city continues to run smoothly. And I'm glad to see Council being a driver of a stakeholder group that will achieve this goal. I'm particularly enthusiastic about the planning of the Indooroopilly roundabout upgrade as part of Council's Better Roads to Brisbane commitment. Most of the people on the west side will be familiar with the intersection of Moggle Road and Coonan Street, also known as the Indooroopilly roundabout. These are two arterial roads that link the city's outer west and southwest suburbs to the CBD. It's a very busy intersection with over 55,000 vehicles using it each day. Unfortunately, it also sees a high rate of crashes, with 32 recorded in a 5-year period. There is clearly work that needs to be done here, and Council, in partnership with the federal government, is making this happen. In September last year, Council put this project out for community consultation. More than 19,000 residents were canvassed for their feedback on 2 options to improve safety and tackle congestion at this intersection. The community overwhelmingly were positive about the upgrade, with 82% of the community response voting in favour for an upgrade and choosing an overpass option for the intersection. I'm pleased to say that in this financial year, we'll be completing detailed design for this project. This Council is getting on with the job of delivering our infrastructure to improve safety and reduce congestion. This roundabout is a choke point in the network, and this upgrade will ensure that people get home quicker and safer. I would also like to say thank you to Julian Simmons, the federal member for Ryan, for his keen advocacy for this project. And Chair, if you'll indulge me, congratulations to Julian and family on their new arrival. I'd also like to say thank you to the federal government, who also recently wrote to Council confirming they will increase their contribution to this project by double, from $25 million to $50 million. I'm also glad to see more important planning work being invested in and around Walter Taylor Ward this year, with preliminary road design funding going towards the intersection of Milton Road and Croydon Street in Toowong. This intersection is notoriously busy and an efficient road design improvement is welcome. With my remaining time, I'd like to mention some key projects that will be delivered by the Schrinner administration under this budget. A critical intersection upgrade at Fig Tree Pocket Road and Kenmore Road will begin this year. This notorious black spot was unfortunately the site of yet another serious crash just this last Monday. The installation of traffic lights will alleviate serious concerns for safety. As road improvements and traffic safety are of great importance to me, I applaud the decision to deliver funding for the traffic calming in Inverpilly's Corinna Street. This will reduce proven rat running and improve safety for the residents through this corridor and in the precinct in general. Another road safety improvement Walter Taylor will see this year is the construction of a pedestrian crossing on Swan Road in St Lucia. At the same intersection, Chair, design will be undertaken for a cycleway and accessibility improvements on Gailey Road in Taringa. For anyone who has ridden up that hill, you would know what I mean about it being a pinch point at the roundabout. St Lucia will also see the dangerous Sir Fred Chanel and Coldridge intersection upgraded to include a dedicated right turn signal. At the entry of the UQ campus, this intersection sees many cars pass through it every day. Finally, I'll conclude with a short story of a man named Dennis. In 1980, Taringa resident Dennis started writing to his local councillor seeking curb and channel for a road near his home. He campaigned for 40 years thereafter, and I'm pleased that this administration has been able to finally deliver the curb and channel, which will stop washouts and improve road safety. I will continue to work for more pedestrian safety improvements throughout St Lucia, Toowong, and of course, the other suburbs in Walter Taylor. Thank you, Chair.
Further speakers? Councillor Strunk.
Thank you, Chair. I entered the debate in this program to speak on the infrastructure for Brisbane. Mr. Chair, this program is responsible for Brisbane road networks and key transport infrastructures. So let's go through some of the projects that continue to be an issue, whether it be in delays, overruns, or just poor delivery. Mr. Chair, probably the biggest ticket item that is foremost in my mind, and it was when I first became a councillor, and it's now 4 years into that, and now we've started the second term, and it's Kingsford Smith Drive. Now, I know the administration hates the opposition and independent and Greens talking about this particular project, but really, truly, Kingsford Smith Drive has been and continues to be a very poorly planned and poorly executed project. Now, if we have a look at the fact that after 4 years of work in this area on that project, it's still only 90% complete, which Councillor McLaughlin told us. Now, I don't know how much longer that 10% is going to take to complete. He didn't tell us that. But they keep saying, oh, yes, it's on budget, it's on time, and we know that it's 12 months overtime already. And of course, we've had a lot of businesses that have been impacted greatly because of a long road closure in some of those strip shops just off of Kingsford Smith Drive. And of course, those businesses have done it really, really tough. And then put on top of that, the pandemic. My heart goes out to them. They're all retailers. I'm come from retail, and I just know what impact that would have had on me and my staff at any one of my stores if that would have happened, even if it only happened for a few months. And these people have been putting up with it for many, many months longer than that. So it's one of those projects that also, of course, the media has carried many stories over the last 3 or 4 years. It's occupied many columns of media columns in papers and many stories on TV and on radio. And yet we still don't know exactly when this project's going to finish. Mr. Chair, If a lecturer in road networking planning could point to one project in Brisbane over the last 20 years that they would tell their students, don't do it this way, it would be Kingsford Smith Drive. Now, moving on to, I think is positive. I've got a bit of funding, like Councillor Mackay.
Order, Chair.
I feel there's a point. Did I hear a point of order?
Oh, yeah, point of order here.
Point of order, Councillor Murphy.
Just wondering if Councillor Strunk will take a question.
Councillor Strunk, will you take a question?
No, I probably don't have enough time to complete what I want to say anyway. So, sorry, Councillor Murphy. Maybe you can address that in your concluding remarks. Yeah. So, Mr. Chair, 2.1.2.2 local access network improvements. My ward is going to receive some funding for a much needed pedestrian crossing in Joseph Banks and College Avenue, Forest Lake, which residents have been requesting for some time. This is it's in College Avenue, but it's a fair way away from the school. But it's on a very busy road, and I often take my dog across this roundabout intersection to pop up to the shops. And I tell you what, it will be a welcome bit of infrastructure when it's completed, I can assure you. I would also like to acknowledge the funding for an increase in the turning lane in Poinsettia and Laburnum Streets in Nala. In the congestion busting projects. This bit of infrastructure has, again, for some time being advocated by the community. It's in front of one of our largest schools in my ward, Richlands East State School. Also, we have a new community hub that was built by the state government. We have a Edmund Rice Annex School. We have the Inala Elders, and there's a number of other smaller, and there's a church across the road. So as I've painted that picture, it's a really busy, and that turning lane is really going to help, especially at the peak times when school is starting and finishing. Mr. Chair, we'll move on to major traffic improvements, intersections. And for the fourth budget, the intersection of Pine, Azalea, and Archiefield Road isn't going to receive the much needed safety upgrade. This intersection was deemed a black spot when most of the councillors in this chamber, or in this place, I should say, weren't even councillors. It has been funded in a couple of budgets for some scoping and for engineering works or planning, but we still haven't received the Cupid doll, if I can put it that way, that bit of infrastructure that will actually make this intersection a safe intersection for a growing community in Richlands. Mr. Chair, this intersection has far more accidents causing hospitalization, and I'm talking serious hospitalization, than most other intersections in Brisbane that have been funded in my time through the various debates that I've listened to. I know it's a big call, but recently speaking to the officer in charge of our local police station and him reviewing what has occurred over the last few years, not 5 years, but the last few years, is shocking. We're talking dozens. Now, this intersection, and if I could really paint a picture of this intersection, it's an intersection that didn't always get a lot of traffic until the development started around it some 10 or 15 years ago. It leads into an industrial estate, which is well established, but growing. It leads, it's the connector road, Pine Street or Pine Road, to the one of the biggest railway stations in Brisbane. So big, it's got 650 car parks. So you can see it's a very popular railway station. It's had Woolworths and a large business center built about 10 years ago. It's in Pine Road itself as well. We have a district park that's going to be established at some stage in the near future. So as you can see, it's an intersection that really was a black spot some 10 years ago, and it's gotten worse, so much worse. Mr. McLaughlin, now Councillor McLaughlin, through you, Chair, I ask if you can have a look at this intersection with potentially for next year. If you can maybe get council officers to review it, that would be really great, because really I don't want to make a big political thing out of this, but it's something that really needs to be addressed. And it's probably the most critical intersection in my whole ward, and it has to be addressed as quickly as practicable. It's spade ready. All you have to do is find the funding. Moving on to 2.1.2.4, SAM signs for schools. Well, I thought when I saw this particular item in the budget papers that SAM for schools, I thought, well, that's terrific. That's really good. I know a lot of councillors here have already targeted their schools somewhat, and I think probably 4 out of my 13, or maybe 5 out of my 13 schools, we do have approaching SAM sign footings, and we do rotate SAM signs in and out of those footings. But when I saw that the other SAM sign project had been taken away or dropped, or at least until 2024, when the school SAM sign schools for schools potentially runs out of funding, after we fund those 100 that the Lord may ever like to fund. It's really disappointing, because a lot of us here in the chamber have many connector roads that would really need to at least have more footings put in, at least. If there's not the funding for the signs, if we can maybe get some funding for some more footings, so that the signs that we do have, that we have been able to be funded for.
Expired. Are there any further speakers? Councillor Landers.
Thank you, Chair. I wish to speak in support of Program 2, Infrastructure for Brisbane, and I would like to thank the Chair, Councillor McLaughlin, for his work in delivering this COVID-19 budget. In recent years, residents in my ward have received a series of road projects that have transformed our local area, namely the Telegraph Road corridor upgrade that was delivered under the LNP administration, and notably was delivered with a $100 million saving to ratepayers. And Chair, can I say that this road not only serves my ward, but also the Deagon ward, who are heavy users of the roads in my ward. We are one city, Chair, and the roads and bike paths are used not only by Brisbane residents, but in fact other councils and Queenslanders. As our city continues to grow and our population expands, we are delivering the required infrastructure that will not only facilitate current demands, but puts our road network in good stead for the coming years. As we continue to tackle congestion hotspots, this administration has generated a $500 million partnership with the federal government, which will invest in creating better roads for Brisbane through the Urban Congestion Fund. This involves priority projects across the city, with congestion and safety, where congestion and safety need to be addressed, and it will tackle a number of sites in Brackenridge Ward. Together, we are working to get residents home quicker and safer. And I thank Luke Howarth, the federal member of Peachtree, who worked hard to secure federal funding for these projects. Mr. Chair, one site that many of my residents are excited about is the upgrade of the Norris and Barber roads intersection in Brackenridge. This intersection is often the topic of conversation with residents, as it is experiencing over 25,000 vehicles each day passing through and is beyond its capacity. This road is also used by residents from Deagon Ward, Chair, as a link to Gympie Road and Moreton Bay suburbs. Following investigations in the 1920 budget, the roundabout will be upgraded to reduce congestion and increase safety. and in particular for cyclists and pedestrians. This will mean residents in the western pocket of Barber Road and the Oaks Estate will be able to access Norris Road and subsequently two major roads, Telegraph Road and Brackenridge Road, without the lengthy and worsening delays, particularly during peak times. Norris Road, which is the north-south connection between Telegraph Road and Brackenridge Road, is also home to Norris Road State School. I know from personal experience how excited many of the parents doing during the morning drop-off or afternoon pickup will be once this is complete. In addition to the intersection upgrade, Norris Road will also receive a range of safety improvements to ensure it is safe and flowing at optimal capacity. As part of the Urban Congestion Fund, Hoyland Street, Brackenridge, will also benefit from significant upgrades. The Brackenridge Road, Hoyland Street and Strathpine Road corridor is an important east-west route linking the Moreton Bay area and the northern Brisbane suburbs of Bald Hills and Brackenridge over the Gympie Arterial Road, and Chair, onto the suburbs in the opposition ward of Deagon. Despite the substantial investment, residents will not be able to enjoy its full effects until the state government takes action in addressing the Strathpine Road overpass. Although in the design phase, many residents that I've spoken with aren't in support of the proposed diverging diamond interchange, with most worried it will be more problematic than it already is. On the topic of flyovers, despite Council's Telegraph Road corridor upgrade that flows at optimal capacity for residents of Deagon and Brackenridge Ward, it still comes to a grinding halt at the state government-controlled Linkfield Road overpass that I know my predecessor, Amanda Cooper, the LNP candidate for Aspley, is now petitioning for. Despite funding on the table by the federal government, this vital overpass duplication still remains to be built by the Labor state government, and traffic continues to back up even after the substantial investment on Telegraph Road by the Brisbane City Council. The Urban Congestion Fund will also provide an upgrade to Beams Road between Lacey Road and Handford Road, spanning several suburbs and again, including the Deagon Ward. This section of Beams Road has a high crash rate and is suffering from worsening congestion. It's a major east-west arterial road on the north side, and approximately 18,000 vehicles that use this road each day, and that number is projected to rise to 26,000 vehicles by 2031. In recent months, I've been contacted by multiple residents in Castledine and Fitzgibbon with significant concerns about this road, particularly with regards to the multiple impending Labor state government developments in the immediate vicinity, putting more cars onto the local road network. These projects have been essentially fast-tracked with no council involvement or consideration for council assets. And to add to this congestion, we still have an open level crossing on Beams Road that, despite past election promises by this Labor state government, has not been removed. Even with council funding support for this project, we again have seen no shovel in the ground. And I'm sure residents will have their say about this in October. Clearly, Mr Chair, this LNP administration and Morrison government can see that work needs to be done to increase the capacity of this road, and detailed design for this project will progress this financial year. The federal government has committed $50 million towards this project, which is terrific. The last item I would like to speak on is Barfoot Street at Brackenridge State High School, where a $212,000 investment will deliver a safer, dedicated pedestrian crossing point for students. And again, Chair, used by residents from Deagon Ward suburb of Brighton who attend this school. I know this is something the school is excited about, and council officers are in discussion with the school at the moment to ensure student safety is paramount, as looking at other ways that safety can be improved around this site. I commend this program to the chamber.
The speakers. Councillor Shree. Councillor Shree.
Thanks, Chair. Just rise to speak on program 2 as well, and to note my ongoing concerns that we continue to spend too much money on road widening and intersection widening projects that encourage car use and are actively hostile to public and active transport outcomes. It's been a persistent failure of this City Council that it continues to invest so much money in these kinds of projects, while other councils around Queensland and around Australia are pivoting funding and prioritising active transport projects. It's been particularly concerning to see that quite a few specific intersection projects within this program don't even include separated bike lanes as part of the intersection redesigns, or have crossing points that are designed to maximise car vehicle flow rather than pedestrian vehicle flow. So I'm sure other councillors have experienced this as well, where you're really excited to see that finally you've gotten funding for that intersection upgrade you wanted, and then you realise that there's only a pedestrian crossing on one side of the traffic lights and not the other, for example, with the result that people who are crossing have to cross at multiple signalised points to move through the intersection rather than being able to cross directly over the main road. That's a function of transport engineers who are making a decision to prioritise turning movements of cars ahead of direct connectivity for pedestrians. So even putting aside the broader question of how much money we're allocating towards intersection projects, even when we get intersection upgrades that are really needed from a pedestrian safety or cycling safety perspective, their specific design is tending to prioritise cars at the expense of pedestrians and cyclists, and that's really disappointing. Similarly, I'm concerned that a lot of these intersection upgrades don't have dedicated bus jump lanes or bus priority lanes, which again is a missed opportunity. I think it's been interesting to see that the costs of these projects seem to continue rising, regardless of what else is happening in sort of the labour market. And it makes me wonder about the efficiencies of privatisation and outsourcing, and whether it would make sense for more of these projects to be undertaken in-house by full-time, permanently employed council staff, rather than continually outsourcing projects on an ongoing basis. In my ward, I'm really pleased to see that funding is continuing for the Victoria Street Montague Road intersection upgrade, and I want to thank Councillor McLaughlin for that, and I want to thank the Lord Mayor for that, because that's a really important project, and I do acknowledge that it's a very expensive project. While I still have some concerns about the specific design and the way the project's been conceptualised, I'm genuinely very, very grateful that we're getting the money for that Victoria Street intersection upgrade, and I acknowledge that there are other councillors who probably would have liked to see some of that money in their wards. But I'm equally very, very disappointed that the $2 million is being spent on the upgrade of River Terrace and Main Street intersection, when I believe there are much simpler ways of solving the legitimate safety concerns relating to that intersection. So the River Terrace Main Street intersection is being redesigned because cars that are coming south off the Story Bridge often end up in conflicts and crashes because motorists are merging between lanes, trying to pick the best light, to whether they want to go right and head down River Terrace, or whether they want to go straight and head down Main Street. They'll wait to see what the lights are doing and then merge at the last minute accordingly. And that's quite dangerous. And I'm sure there are many councillors who come off the Story Bridge through that intersection and realise that it's a little bit hairy. But there's a very simple way to fix that. And that would simply be to designate the intersection as having 2 straight ahead lanes and 1 right-hand turning lane. Currently, it has 1 straight lane, 1 right turning lane, and 1 shared lane that goes either straight or right. But instead of having the current configuration, we could change that middle lane to simply being a 2nd straight ahead lane, so that there are 2 straight ahead lanes and 1 right-hand turning lane going into River Terrace. This would be a very cheap and simple fix, which would still address the same concerns that the current intersection project is proposing to address, but at a fraction of the cost. It would also have the effect of deprioritising River Terrace as a through corridor, which is obviously an important outcome in terms of improving public access to the neighbouring Kangaroo Point Clifftop Park. So it's been really disappointing to me that although the council talks the talk about active transport and talks the talk about working with the community and working with the local councillor, on this project there was no public consultation, and then there was no meaningful consultation with me as a local councillor. I had to actively kick up a stink, proactively push for meetings. I got one meeting and then 6 months of radio silence, and then no word about this intersection before the election. And then as soon as the election's finished, we hear that this intersection upgrade is going ahead, even though I had strongly objected to it. So there's a clear process failing there, where normally if council is going to spend millions of dollars on an intersection upgrade, they'd at least put the designs on the website, put up an online survey, maybe ask residents to submit feedback. But they didn't do any of that. They didn't even do the bare minimum tokenistic amount of consultation that they do for other intersection upgrades. And there's been a stark contrast between the consultation on the Victoria Street Montague Road intersection upgrade and the River Terrace Main Street intersection upgrade. For Victoria Street Montague Road, council had information stalls out on the footpath. They published designs online. They took in feedback, and then they published a final concept design, and there was a second round for residents to give feedback. It was a reasonably robust process compared to some of the consultation council runs. Yet in contrast, the River Terrace Main Street intersection had no public consultation. I only became aware of it because I saw money allocated in the budget and started asking questions. And even then, it was really hard to get clear information out of it. I'd thought after I objected that the project wasn't even going to go ahead, and I was quite relieved about that. And then only after the council election did we discover that council officers had been proceeding on planning the project in the background. And then simply it was announced in April that the thing was happening without any opportunity for public comment. And now residents are in the position of trying to get up to speed, find out what's proposed, send in emails without even knowing what email addresses they should be sending feedback to. And residents are feeling frustrated and cut out of the conversation. And that's not just local residents who live in Kangaroo Point, but that's cyclists and pedestrians who move through that precinct to access other parts of the city. It's people who access and enjoy the local park at the top of Kangaroo Point. I see the Lord Mayor's just jumped on video. I'm not sure if Lord Mayor was listening to my earlier comments, but Lord Mayor, I'm talking about the intersection upgrade for River Terrace and Main Street. I remain concerned about this design. I don't think it's a good use of public funds. I would much rather see this money reallocated to other more urgent pedestrian safety upgrades, both within my ward and around the city. I'm pleased to hear that the council administration is considering funding for signalised pedestrian crossing further along River Terrace near Bell Street and Patton Street. That's a positive outcome, and I thank Councillor McLaughlin for being open to that suggestion, and I think that's a partial improvement, but it doesn't address the fundamental core concern, which is that the main design of River Terrace and Main Street is not in the public interest. It hasn't been the subject of detailed public consultation. It's a very expensive response to a problem that could be solved much more cheaply and easily. And I think that intersection for me is a classic example of the way council gets transport planning wrong in this city, where you don't talk to the local councillors, you don't talk to the local community, you look at a few traffic models and you look at some traffic counts and you decide, oh, this is the best way we're going to do it, without actually ground truth and looking at what's happening down on the ground in the community and about how people actually move through these intersections. So overall, I'm again disappointed with the way this project is being managed. I'm disappointed with the amount of funding which is allocated towards projects which encourage car travel and discourage active transport and public transport. I note that the officers within the programs are very hardworking and they do their best within the narrow parameters and confines of their role descriptions. But overall, this is the sort of program that belongs back in 1950s transport planning. It's not something that this city should be proud of or celebrating. It's something that we should be embarrassed about, because it shows how backwards we are in terms of planning for a sustainable transport network. And I don't mean to offend any of the particular councillors who are actively involved in this program. I know you're all just part of this same machine chugging along, but it's time to steer that machine in a different direction. We need to be brave enough to rethink our approach to transport planning in the city.
Time has expired. Further speakers? Councillor Hammond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise, sitting here, to speak in support of Program 2 budget for 2020 and 21. This administration has a strong commitment to getting residents home quicker and safer. For those who live in the outer suburbs of Brisbane, like residents in my ward, reducing traffic congestion between the city and the suburbs make a real difference in everyday lives. It gets people home sooner to their families and provides more time for enjoying the Brisbane lifestyle. Last financial year, Marchant Ward was fortunate enough to have 2 major congestion reduction projects completed. One at Murphy and Ellison Road and the other at Raymont and Grange Road. Northsiders will know that Murphy and Ellison Road is a common thoroughfare connecting Geebung, Aspley, Zilmere and more northern suburbs, including Moreton Shire, to the city and along Gympie Road. But the upgrade, this was about a roundabout that was prone to congestion and crashes. It was a site that caused a lot of frustrations for the local residents. Between late 2018 and April 2020, the intersection went up a major upgrade. The roundabout was transformed from a roundabout to a fully signalised intersection with widened lanes in each direction. The intersection of Kitty Hawk Drive and Murphy Road were also upgraded, and additional lanes, a right turn pocket and a U-turn facility. Council has also installed on-road cycle lanes in both directions on Murphy Road and Ellison Road, indented bus stops and improving access and connecting streets, and provided 2 off-road parking areas for Marchant and 7th Brigade Park. It was great to witness the project come to fruition from the early planning stages, now at its recent completion. This intersection is operating much more efficiently and safely, and more importantly, it's getting people home quicker and safer. The second upgrade was at Raymont Road and Grange Road in Grange, which was finished in February this year. The project was an outcome of the 2015 Woolston Grange Transport Study, which recommended safety congestion improvements at this intersection. Grange Road is one of the busier roads in Marchants, extending from Stafford to the Grange and acting as a key travel route into the city. We were seeing increased traffic congestion along Grange Road because of the shared through and right-hand turn lane. Vehicles were queuing up Grange Road while waiting to turn into Raymont Road, causing real congestion problems, particularly through the peak periods. The upgrade installed a dedicated southbound turn lane and northbound left turn lane onto Grange Road from Grange Road into Raymont Road. It's also upgraded the existing traffic lights, installed a new traffic island and new footpaths, access ramps. This is a real congestion busting project, and I'm very thankful that it was completed. This new budget is continuing to take real action on congestion in the suburbs. In 2020-21, significant investment will go towards reduction initiatives across Brisbane. I'm pleased to see in my ward, major traffic improvements will be undertaken at Ellison and Kirby Road in Aspley, and Hamilton Road and Stagg Road in Chermside if the state government decide to participate and return correspondence. Also planned for the residents of Marchant Ward are congesting busting projects at Newman Road and Ellison Road in Geebung, and Lutwich Road and Maygar Street in Windsor, which my residents are very, very excited about. I'm glad to see the feasibility investigation concept designs for future upgrades at Newman Road between Copperfield Street and Ellison Road. I do understand that's in Councillor Cassidy's new area, but we had the privilege of looking after that area for 12 years, so I'm glad to see this is part of the project. We're also going to see some works at Strathmore Street in Kedron as part of this year's program. Mr Chair, Council is always ready and prepared to take action on congestion, unlike the state Labor government, who after years of dawdling have suddenly and finally decided to think about the open level crossings. This council made commitments up to $40 million towards removing the Castledine, Lyndon and Coopers Plain open level crossing this year. We've heard Councillor Griffiths talk about Coopers Plains crossing for years. So I'm unsure why Minister Bailey didn't listen to Councillor Griffiths. However, I'm really thankful for Minister Bailey to continue to commit to the Castledine railway station, because I remember, as Councillor Sanders said, and Amanda Cooper and Councillor Davis will remember, a big billboard last election on Beams Road saying only Stirling and Bart can fix this intersection. We have seen no real action. In fact, Councillor Cassidy said the hard-working state member for Aspley is delivering this project. Well, Councillor Cassidy, I know what my residents call the hard-working state member for Aspley, and it's certainly not the hard-working state member for Aspley. They call him Do Nothing Bart, or they would like to see him in a red and yellow striped outfit so they can start playing Where is Bart? Because the member for Stafford, Aspley, has done nothing. He promised a lot last election and has not delivered one of his promises. And I can go on about those, but they're not in the council budget before us. So I'm delighted that our LNP, through Lord Mayor Adrian Schrinner, has promised $40 million to this important upgrade there at Castledine. As much as it's not in the Marchant ward, my residents do go down Beams Road, Councillor Sanders, so we're looking forward to that important upgrade as well. But I would like to say there is a real problem with the commitment, the $128 million. Minister Bailey, I'm really thankful for it. But there's already a $30 million black hole, because council, under Lord Mayor Adrian Schrinner, he said $40 million towards this project, not 70. So we're already flawed. I am worried for the residents of the Aspley electorate. Do not believe Bart's promises, because he cannot deliver anything. He will put another billboard up on Beams Road saying only he can do it. Do you know why there's money in the budget? And again, thank you, Minister Bailey. It's because they've got real concerns and real worries about our candidate, our hard-working candidate, who has got runs on the board. She knows how to deliver projects for the north side. She has got proven track record. So only people of Aspley, put your thoughts behind and votes behind Amanda Cooper, because she is the only one
Point of order, Chair.
to deliver these projects for you.
Who's to ask? I can't see the hand.
Sorry, it's Councillor Stree.
Straight, yep.
This is well outside the scope of the program. This is just shallow electioneering, and it's to be honest, completely irrelevant.
Being censorious and an enemy of free speech here, Councillor Shree, in your request for me to bring a councillor back on topic, but the thought had occurred to me that it probably is time for Councillor Hammond to return to the budget, please. So, Councillor Hammond, please return to the program at hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. $40 million is what Council has put forward to this important budget. And I believe that this is just another show and electioneering from the state Labor government to say they'll promise something, re-announce that they're going to do something when they've done nothing. So, Mr. Chair, to get back to Program 2 budget, I would like to finish by saying the suburbs are gearing up for a significant population growth over the next decade, and we need to invest in congestion reduction initiatives to future-proof Brisbane. The investment in this year's Budget 2 program will work towards achieving that goal. And I would like to close by thanking Lord Mayor Adrian Schrinner and Councillor David McLaughlin for their hard work about tackling these difficult issues. Thank you.
Further speakers? Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise to speak in support of the 2020-21 Infrastructure for Brisbane budget. This program is investing in the improvement of local transport networks right across our city. It's keeping Brisbane moving, and in particular, it's ensuring travel through and across the suburbs is efficient and reliable. Mr. Chair, Program 2 is well known for delivering significant projects such as Kingsford Smith Drive and the Wynnum Road corridor upgrade. In the McDowell ward, Program 2 is well known for delivering the Hamilton Road connection and the Bridgeman and Beckett Road corridor upgrade. And as Councillor Hammond highlighted in her remarks, the recent completion of the Murphy Road and Ellison Road upgrade project has provided real improvements for residents in the outer northern suburbs, including for McDowell Ward residents. This major project has enhanced safety, it's reduced queue lengths along Murphy Road and improved connectivity and safety for pedestrian access to public and active transport and parklands at Marchant and 7th Brigade Parks. All of these projects deliver benefits for the entire city by helping to tackle congestions and commute times in Brisbane. This administration is committed to getting residents home quicker and safer, and these projects are vital to keeping our city moving. Mr Chair, equally as important though are the smaller projects included in this program. Traffic calming, median upgrades, bridge rehabilitations, just to name a few. Infrastructure for Brisbane delivers hundreds of these projects each year, well over 1,000 if you include the road resurfacing program. These types of works may seem minor, but they make real differences in the everyday lives of people across Brisbane. This budget provides for an increased number of road resurfacing projects in the McDowell Ward. Works are currently underway for the resurfacing of Maundrell Terrace and from Albany Creek Road to Terrace Street. And this is a key corridor in the ward, and resurfacing this significant stretch of road was a key commitment from this administration as part of our commitment to get residents home quicker and safer. Mr Chair, last financial year, Program 2 delivered improvements right across McDowell Ward. Preliminary road design work was undertaken from Rhodey Road to Plachette Place through to Ifield Street in McDowell. And this is an important piece of work because this stretch of road includes the McDowell State School, for which there are significant challenges at school pickup and drop-off time. On the western side of Trouts Road and Rhodey Road intersection at McDowell, motorists were making illegal and dangerous right turns. And through the local network improvements service, council installed a traffic island to make this intersection safer for pedestrians and motorists. We saw the installation of LED wildlife awareness monitors on Beckett Road. This was part of the LED road sign servicing program too. Beckett Road has pockets of green space either side of it, and these signs were installed to reduce the potential for wildlife being hit by cars. I know that these signs have been installed at a number of high priority sites across the city and are making a difference by alerting drivers to the potential presence of animals on or near the road. These signs are creating a safer environment, not only for drivers, but for our wildlife too. This is a great example of a small project that can have such a big impact. Mr Chair, Council Speed Awareness Monitors program has shown to improve driver behaviour and make Brisbane streets safer. On average, motorists reduce their speeds by 8 kilometres an hour. And I'm very pleased that Council will deliver 100 permanent speed awareness monitors across our city over the next 4 years as part of the SAMS for Schools program. This will be very welcome news for many of our schools across Brisbane, including the Queen of Apostles School on Appleby Road at Stafford. And I look forward to working with Councillor Hammond in presenting our case to secure a SAM for School sign for this terrific local school. Whether it's a SAM sign or a WAM sign, I'm pleased to see continued investment in LED road signs this financial year. Mr Chair, in 2021, over $42 million will go towards improving Brisbane's local transport networks. This includes $2.2 million for bridge and culvert construction, $3.5 million for local access network improvements, $1.69 million for local area traffic management, and $2.2 million for suburban corridor modernisation. In 2019-20, funding was allocated for the design for the reconstruction of the bridges in Tallerwood Place, Richmond Downs, and Shellgate Street in Chirnside West. And I'm delighted that in this year's budget, there is funding for the construction of these replacement bridges with a combined investment of over $1.5 million. There's also $946,000 for the construction of a brand new low-level culvert crossing across Cabbage Tree Creek at Idonia Street in Brisbane Downs. And this follows from last year's budget, which provided $228,000 for planning and design. This new culvert is a fantastic investment in connecting our network of pathways and bikeways, helping local residents get out and about to enjoy the many outdoor spaces and parks in our part of Brisbane. In addition to the Idonia Street Culvert project, the existing Rogan Road culvert in Brisbane Downs will be rehabilitated and the Hawera Court culvert in Aspley will be relined. Mr Chair, in the suburb of McDowell itself, we're investing in planning and design options for Kiona Road as part of the Suburban Corridor Modernisation Plan. Kiona Road, which historically comprised of acreage properties, has seen changed in residential living options in recent times, which has meant increased traffic movements. It also has the additional pressure of a large state school and a P12 independent school backing onto it. There are challenges providing pedestrian access, and it has become a bit of a rat run for motorists travelling between Trouts Road and Old Northern Road. So the investment in a suburban corridor modernisation plan is very welcome. Mr Chair, in his budget reply, Councillor Cassidy was a bit loose with the truth with Brisbane residents regarding funding for some Program 2 initiatives, saying that this budget has a $100,000 less investment for traffic calming and a $216,000 less investment for local access network improvements. I think that the Leader of the Opposition clearly needs to work on his maths, because these calculations are simply incorrect. In fact, great investment in these initiatives is continuing this year, which will lengthen the life of assets right across the city, increase safety on neighbourhood roads and improve access in and around the suburbs. In this budget, I welcome the investment in traffic calming for McDowell Ward. Design and consultation will kick off for the Jarvis Street precinct in Stafford Heights, and the Page Street precinct in Everton Park will progress to construction of traffic management devices on Pikeson Street and Rorke Street. I'm also very pleased to see planning and design for local access network improvements for Saturn Crescent at Protea Place in Brisbane Downs. Improvements to local transport networks, whether it's just installing a stop sign, adjusting a traffic island or implementing speed bumps, can have a real impact on movement around our suburbs. Mr Chair, these are the kinds of works this year's plan for Program 2 delivers right across our city, and I put on record my full support for this program.
Further speakers? Councillor Huang.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I enter to speak in support of the 2021 budget for Program 2, Infrastructure for Brisbane. Mr. Chair, in the new financial year, the Infrastructure for Brisbane program will deliver crucial road upgrades across the city that will get residents home quicker and safer, so they can spend more quality time with family, enjoy our city's lifestyle. This program also tackles safety issues across Brisbane and works to create a safer environment for drivers, pedestrians, and cyclists. In the 2019 to 2020, this program delivered a number of important safety initiatives. The one most close to my heart is the Player Street Connection project. This upgrade, the Castles Road and McGregor Street intersection, with the provision of a new road connecting the intersection to Player Street. This improved access in and out of Player Street, also increased safety for all road users at this spot. Between 2007 and 2011, there were 93 crashes recorded at this intersection, so I'm glad this was made a priority last year. The new Player Street connection replaced all T intersection at Castles Road and McGregor Street with a four-way intersection and a new roundabout at the intersection of Player Street and Pigworth Street. This work was completed in December last year, and I'm pleased to say this intersection is operating much more smoothly and, most importantly, make it much safer for local traffic. Last financial year, it was great to see Council improving safety by delivering a communication program for culturally and linguistically diverse communities. In my ward, a number of community engagement sessions were delivered at Sunnybank during Queensland Road Safety Week. This was targeted at residents with non-English speaking background to assist and understand how to move around the city safely. I was very appreciative of this program, which helped residents in my ward feel more confident walking, cycling, and driving around the city. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank our Lord Mayor, Councillor Adrian Schreiner, for delivering the new drop and go for McGregor State School. I always remember when Councillor Schreiner and I visited the school when he was the chair for infrastructure, and we saw the needs for the school to have a safer drop-off and pickup area. Councillor Schreiner then committed to co-fund and pushed the state government to come to terms with us to build this drop and go. It is now completed, and the kids, the parents, and the teaching staff are all enjoying a safer and more efficient drop-off and pickup during the peak hours. In the new financial year, safety continues to be a priority with the Safer Path for Seniors program. This initiative will continue to improve the transport environment and better manage potential conflict between vehicles, pedestrians, and cyclists. This is a $2.16 million commitment to improving safety in areas with high concentrations of seniors. One of the aims outlined in Council's transport plan is that all members of the community have the right to be and feel safe while completing their journey without harm. This new initiative is delivering on this goal. And as previously pointed out by Councillor Matic, this program will significantly invest in the upkeep of Council's assets this year, including a $90 million investment towards making our roads smoother and safer, and almost $9 million would improving bulwarks, and $29 million towards reconstructing and rehabilitating bridges and culverts. These are investments in the city's safety, ensuring these assets remain fit for purpose and well maintained. I'm pleased to see that the new budget will deliver the construction of traffic calming devices for the London Street and Liverpool Street precinct in ML Place, which will help address red running and speeding issues prevalent in this area. It is also great to see money has been allocated for the commencement of Rochdale Road and Priestdale Road intersection upgrade. This is a long-standing issue between Brisbane City Council and Logan City Council, as this intersection is right on the boundary between two cities. This project estimated at $28 to $32 million, and the Commonwealth Government have committed $14 million to support this important project. Thanks to Ross Vesta MP, Federal Member for Bona, for his support in making it happen. The Rochdale Road and Priestdale Road intersection have a combined traffic of 24,000 vehicles through daily, and majority of the traffic was coming from Logan City as the result of the state government's inaction to provide adequate access to freeway from Springwood, and forced those Logan traffic had to run through Rochdale Road and Mouse Plating Road to access freeway. Despite state government's inadequacy in providing a traffic solution and refused to provide any funding towards this upgrade, the local Labour state member has claimed a win on her Facebook post for our work and funding towards this intersection upgrade. Please excuse my English proficiency, as English is my second language. I couldn't find a word to describe this kind of behavior without being warned by the chair. But to me, this blatant misappropriation of other people's work is really something less. Mr. Chair, we are seeing more and more vehicles, cyclists, and buses on our roads as Brisbane grows, which means our network needs to remain up to standard and safe. It's promising to see Program 2 investing in the safety of our transport networks, and for this reason, I fully support the 2020-21 Infrastructure for Brisbane budget to the Chamber.
Further speakers? Councillor Marx? No, yes.
Actually, no, I was just waving at the Lord Mayor's children.
Oh, right, excuse me. Okay. All right, as for further speakers? I see no hands. Councillor McLaughlin. Councillor McLaughlin.
Thank you. Am I unmuted?
You are.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to those who've participated in this debate. As I stressed yesterday, investment in infrastructure projects is fundamental to the economic health of any city. And during times of economic hardship, the delivery of infrastructure is what breathes life back into a city, bringing new jobs and support to local companies. Program 2 in 2020-2021 will do just that, as we've heard from many of the speakers yesterday and today, with the commencement of many job-creating road, intersection and bridge upgrades across Brisbane. Equally critical are the commitments to maintenance of an asset base of $11.5 billion and making sure our roads and bridges are fit for purpose. Mr. Chair, it was great to hear yesterday from Councillor Cook in debate the admission that she's no engineer. We do rely on engineers to design our network and plan our network. Working as a spin doctor for an engineering firm isn't a sufficient qualification to tell our road engineers how they should do their job, and we do need to rely on their expertise, and I thank them for it in planning our network. As Councillor Mackay said earlier, it's pleasing to see such strong support from the federal government this year with their investment in the Better Roads for Brisbane initiative, in addition to long-standing programs improving road safety through the Black Spot and Roads to Recovery programs. Mr. Chair, these projects are targeting intersections across the city that are used each day by tens of thousands of vehicles, and the planned works for each project will provide significant reduction in congestion. We look forward to working with the federal government this financial year as construction kicks off for many of these projects and design progresses for others. We have a number of major intersection improvements to be delivered this financial year. Many of these upgrades will take place in suburbs including Aspley, Wacol, Gaythorne, Belmont. The suburbs will also benefit from numerous congestion busting projects, some of which will be delivered in Wynnum West, Enoggera, Yorongpilly, Geebung and Inala. As further funding comes in from the federal government as part of the Black Spot program and Roads to Recovery program in the coming months, additional intersection upgrades will be facilitated. The streets around our schools will become safer with 3 key school safety initiatives, and we'll start to see those smiling Sam signs popping up in school zones across the city. And I just want to rebut a couple of the comments that have been made by a couple of the Labor councillors who clearly didn't listen to the response that was given to this question in the budget information session, nor in my debate yesterday, because due to the claim that they've made that the substantive SAM sign program has ended with the addition of this particular program. Well, that's not right, and it's not true. I mentioned this in the budget information session and in my speech yesterday. The funding for the substantive SAM signs has been moved into core funding. That answer was provided. So that the total, including the SAMs for schools and the substantive SAMs program, is $1.3 million for signs in 2020, 2021, which is a great investment and will continue to make roads across our city safer. Mr. Chair, we'll be gearing up for future growth of the city with the design of the Gardner Road link in Rochdale and the commencement of a new initiative, the coordination of major inner city construction projects. This recognises the impacts that significant investments and construction is having in the CBD and the nearby zones such as the Gabba ward. So investment will continue in the forward planning of the city's transport network to link in with the many large-scale infrastructure projects that are on the horizon. Mr. Chair, we've heard from the mantra from the Labor councillors who participated in this debate yesterday and today on KSD. A tired rehash of their failed election campaign slogans. We know the Labor Party spent $2 million trotting out their propaganda, and the results speak for themselves. They failed dismally. Let me say that one thing is for sure and certain: if Labor had their way, there would be no bikeway and pedestrian connection built to a decent standard connecting Brett's Wharf to Newstead. Infrastructure, as we heard yesterday, now used by thousands of people walking and riding bikes every week, over 300,000 since it opened. It was my must-have as a local councillor, and it's wonderful to see that infrastructure being delivered. Labor had no plans, still has no alternative plan about how to move the 15,000 new residents promised by the state government in the North Shore Hamilton Priority Development Area. No plans about how to cope with the growth in traffic, heavy vehicle traffic generated by the expanding airport, and the vitally important trade coast. Planning, Mr. Chair, planning for the future is hard. We get on and do it. Labor has had and has no plans for our city at the election, and through their contributions here in this debate, clearly they still have no plans. Mudslinging is all they know, and they were rewarded accordingly in March by an electorate that sees through them for what they are. Yes, Councillor Cassidy, Councillor Strunk, through you, Mr. Chair, there are vacant shops on Racecourse Road, just like there are on Oxford Street in Bulimba, in Broadbeach on the Gold Coast, on every high street throughout Brisbane, across Queensland and Australia. I've read the same articles you have, but I don't suffer from selective blindness. Costs are high, rents not reduced, people are buying their goods online. I'll tell you, Mr. Chair, what Councillor Cassidy and Councillor Strunk have chosen to ignore about businesses on Racecourse Road. They were established to provide services to racegoers. Who stopped people going to the races for 3 years? Sterling Hitchliff and his mismanagement of the laying of new turf on the Eagle Farm track. He put it out of commission for up to 3 years. Is there anything that he touches that he doesn't stuff up, Mr. Chair? The KSD is a tremendous project. It is on track for delivery this calendar year, and it remains under its established budget of $650 million. Mr. Chair, there were some other issues that were raised by other councillors. I'll just go to some of those in the time that I have remaining. One from Councillor Johnson, that no one asked for traffic signals to be installed at Ipswich Road and Ponsonbury Street, a major traffic improvement. Look, this is a current intersection, is non-signalised crossroad, and it's controlled by a give way sign and stop signage and line marking, which is prone to accidents. It is a black spot intersection, and it will involve the installation of new traffic signals. Improvements like this are done to improve traffic safety. That's what this is about. Motorists turning in and out of Ipswich Road are colliding with through traffic on Ipswich Road, and that's been found to be associated with the lack of traffic signals at the intersection. Combined with the high volumes of traffic on Ipswich Road, there have been a number of reported casualty crashes at this location, and for that reason, it's been deemed to be a black spot program with funding coming from the federal government's black spot funding. So new traffic lights will be installed there. Councillor Johnson, not everything that is done to improve traffic safety comes from your initiative, but we welcome your suggestions when they come through. But we do have to rely on others who provide us with input, and that includes our traffic engineers, and that's been the case in this particular circumstance. Mr. Chair, in the time remaining, I'd just like to close by saying that we do have a huge task ahead to help stimulate the city's economy, get residents back into jobs, and to support local industry and businesses. I'm confident that the projects and services included in Program 2 in 2020-2021 will play a vital part in strengthening the city's work, economic and lifestyle opportunities over the coming financial year. I'd just like to say thank you to those who've worked tirelessly to produce a great Program 2 budget this year, in particular Marie Gales, Scott Stewart, American Robert, Kylie, Brooke, and the rest of the budget team. Putting together a budget in this program within our organisation as large as council is a huge undertaking, and I'd like to thank everybody for their efforts in contributing to the budget and for those who participated in this debate. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'll now put the resolution for the adoption of the Infrastructure for Brisbane program. All those in favour say aye and raise your hands.
Aye.
Thank you. Please lower your hands. And those against, please say no and raise your hands.
No.
The ayes have it.
Division.
Division called by Councillor Landis and Councillor McLaughlin. Please ring the bells.
Just give Scott a ring with that little bit of other information. Oh. about the 200,000.
All right, councillors, all those in favour, please say aye, raise your hand and hold it there so it may be counted.
Aye.
Please lower your hands. And those against, please say no and raise your hand and hold it there so it may be counted.
No.
Thank you. Please lower your hand. Clerks, when you're ready, please read the result.
Mr. Chair, the ayes have it, the voting being 24 in favour, 1 against and 1 abstention.
The ayes have it. Thank you, councillors. We will now move to Program Area 3, Clean, Green and Sustainable City. I believe that this is a program area with 2 chairs. So the first speaker will be Councillor Cunningham. The second will be Councillor Marks. Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I move that for the Clean, Green and Sustainable City program, the services of council, the allocations for the operations and the projects and rolling projects as set out on pages 41 to 69 and the indicative schedules on pages 161 to 170 for the years 2020 to 2021 through to 2023 and 24 so far as they relate to Program 3 be adopted.
It's been moved by Councillor Cunningham, seconded by Councillor Hammond, that for the Clean, Green and Sustainable City program, the services of council, the allocations for the operations and projects and rolling projects are set out on pages 41 to 69 and the indicative schedules on pages 161 to 170 for the years 2020 to 21 through to 2023-24, so far as they relate to Program 3, be adopted. Is there any debate? Councillor Cunningham.
It's quite the mouthful, isn't it, Mr. Chair? Thank you. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Program 3. I will address services 3.1 to 3.4 and my colleague, Councillor Marks, will speak to 3.5. This program is focused on so much of what makes our city and suburbs great. The parks and playgrounds, the walking tracks and lookouts, our meandering river and network of local creeks. Mr. Chair, Brisbane is a clean, green and sustainable city, and the Lord Mayor's budget for 2021 delivers on this administration's commitment to make the Brisbane of tomorrow even better. A city which has an ever-growing list of outdoor lifestyle options and a city which makes the most of the enviable subtropical climate. Before I get into some of the details, I want to take just a moment to reflect on the once-in-a-lifetime circumstances we have endured over the recent months throughout this global pandemic and how it relates to this program. When restrictions were at their highest level and when residents were confined to their suburb, the important role of open green spaces in our neighbourhoods was magnified. As gyms closed and the time poor suddenly gifted more opportunity for exercise, we saw the potential of our local walking tracks and trails fully realised, with many residents rediscovering hidden gems and the beauty and brilliance of our local environment. In the case of our playgrounds and dog off-leash areas, we were perhaps sometimes guilty of not appreciating what we had until it was closed and became off limits. I know from experience the difficulties of trying to explain to a toddler while he could no longer climb or hop onto a swing. From a park's perspective at least, things are mostly back to normal, but COVID is much more than a temporary shutdown or inconvenience. The health and economic impacts will be felt for the months and years ahead. As City Councillors, we should recognise the way in which the lifestyle and expectations of our residents will evolve in line with changes in their daily lives. We can expect an ongoing shift, likely to see more people spending time in their local community and in their city. So we must continue to invest in high quality parks and protect and enhance our natural spaces. Mr. Chair, this year, the Lord Mayor is investing more than $334 million in our parks, green spaces and wildlife protection initiatives. This administration is also investing to ensure we are a resilient and sustainable city so that Brisbane remains prepared for the impacts of a changing climate. We take an approach that enables both a resilient community and a natural environment to again emerge after times of flood and drought.
Despite falling revenues in this program, but because of responsible financial management, we have been able to look to the future and invest in Program 3 with projects both big and small. Projects that support our economic recovery, create local jobs and deliver on our vision to find a balance between conservation, restoration and recreation. It's more than just projects that contribute to our vision and balance. Under community engagement and partnerships, we're also encouraging Brisbane residents to take direct action, to adopt practices that contribute to a more sustainable city. This also helps foster recognition of our diverse fauna and flora by working in partnership with passionate volunteers. Through this, we are delivering a range of activations, events and behaviour change campaigns. One such example is that we have taken steps to reduce the impact of single-use plastics on the environment. We've showed leadership by phasing out helium balloons, plastic straws and single-use plastic bottles at council events. We even banned plastic wrap on election day, Mr Chair, and we will continue to encourage residents to live more sustainably. Another example that will continue this coming year is our long-standing tradition of distributing free native plants. This began in the late 1960s and is in fact Australia's oldest free native plants program. We expect over 45,000 native plants will be given out to help encourage more local green thumbs. Although impacted by some COVID-related restrictions, our Green Heart Homes program will continue to inspire and support residents. Green Heart Schools continues to work with future leaders and in 2021 is delivering online learning programs. We've seen an increase to 33 schools and 78 students take part in this year's Student Environment Leadership Network. Mr Chair, pivot must surely be the word of the year. COVID has changed what's possible in terms of events for Brisbane's own sustainability agency, City Smart. Together, we are working with City Smart to help them pivot and support community organisations and support local small businesses to increase resilience and help respond to some of the challenges they face in this post-pandemic world. This coming year, the Lord Mayor will continue to help community environment groups build their capacity through training and support and to access funds for projects which will directly lead to enhanced bushland and waterway health within areas of high ecological importance. I know that many councillors, including myself, feel very passionately about our Community Conservation Partnerships program. This is the overall name given to the combination of Habitat Brisbane, Creek Catchment and the Wildlife Conservation Partnerships programs. This remains a very popular program and both the Lord Mayor and I are committed to seeing resources in this area continue. CCPP currently coordinates groups and individuals to deliver bushland and waterway improvements on 983 sites, empowering over 8,500 volunteers. Importantly, the Lord Mayor's Community Sustainability and Environmental Grants program continues to offer funding for environment and sustainability initiatives for community groups, non-profit organisations, schools and individuals across 4 categories: environment, sustainability, cultivating community gardens and native wildlife carers grants. Last year, over 6,500 native animals were rescued within our city boundary. So this coming year, we will continue to fund the Native Animal Ambulance Service operated by the RSPCA. We know that as climate cycles vary, Brisbane will need to be ready for more frequent extreme weather events. We will support outcomes that benefit both flood and drought resilience in our community. We will continue to deliver accessible flood information for residents and businesses to ensure flood risk across the city is understood and information provided to the public is both simple and accessible. The Lord Mayor has a vision to make Brisbane Australia's koala capital. This year, there is continued funding for important koala research work, which focuses on key issues facing the species in Brisbane in partnership with universities and leading experts. In my own ward of Coorparoo, work continues on the Norman Creek Master Plan. The transformation of Hanlon Park becomes a reality, creating a vibrant urban oasis supported by a naturalised water channel to replace the ugly concrete drain. Likewise, the Oxley Creek transformation will continue with the delivery of projects and initiatives identified in the award-winning master plan. Mr. Chair, I'm so proud that we will continue to demonstrate leadership in energy and carbon management. The Lord Mayor will ensure our carbon neutral certification is maintained for council operations. At a time when the state government can't get one department to be carbon neutral, it is an LNP administration who will maintain this status for Australia's largest local government. For the first time in 2021, we will also take steps to actively encourage householders to make changes in their own home to reduce their emissions as well as household costs. Mr. Chair, we have wonderful weather in Brisbane with more than 280 days of sunshine each year, and I know that many families make the most of this in our parks and reserves. This year, the Lord Mayor has committed to building, upgrading and enhancing 112 suburban parks and dog parks across the city. Late last year, we reached our goal of purchasing 750 hectares of at-risk bushland across the city. This coming year, having witnessed the recent horror of bushfires, we will have a renewed focus on management, particularly fire management. Our efforts to reduce the impacts of invasive species on the city's biodiversity also continues. The Brisbane Invasive Species Management Plan and the Wipeout Weeds program has a solid investment of over $5 million. We will continue bushland restoration through the delivery of the Environmental Offsets program with over 200,000 plantings and 192 hectares under management. Our Greener Suburbs project focuses on tree planting within selected suburbs along major roads. Planting trees helps cool our streets, support active travel, and beautify busy local traffic corridors. Last year, the Lord Mayor revealed his Inspiring Green Future Fund, and despite the emerging economic climate, this year a revenue of $15 million from the City of Brisbane Investment Corporation will be poured into our parks. His unwavering commitment to ensure the Brisbane of tomorrow is better than the Brisbane of today is demonstrated by his major investment of $83 million at Victoria Park. Brisbane residents have embraced his vision for the transformation, and this year, taking on board all the feedback we have received, we will develop a final vision and begin planning to support this iconic central parkland. As well as Victoria Park, our iconic Parks for Brisbane budget supports high-profile parks such as the City Botanic Gardens, Whitten Barracks Park and Nudgee Waterholes. The local government infrastructure plan enables us to deliver new or upgraded park infrastructure in areas forecast to undergo significant growth. This coming year, we will spend $13 million upgrading existing parks or purchasing new parks through the LGIP in Upper Kedron, West End, McGregor, Marchant, Richlands, Oxley, Moggill and Chelmer. Last year, we saw the addition of 10 netball courts across the city, and this year we will continue to deliver sports parks at Runcorn, Heathwood, Windsor and Nudgee with a $19.3 million spend. Metropolitan and district parks will see $2.2 million facelift for play equipment, outdoor furniture, shade and landscaping at Gus Davis Park, Thrush Street Park, Blackwood Street Park and Kurragari Park. Neighbourhood parks across the city are also in line for a $2.7 million freshen up in Stretton, Mansfield, Brighton, Forest Lake and Ascot, just to name a few. Funding for the rehabilitation and enhancement of dog off-leash areas has more than doubled since 2017-18 to more than $1.5 million this year as we continue to see our dollars increase in popularity. We'll continue to upgrade safety lighting in our parks, and there is over $800,000 for upgrading necessary facilities like toilets. The Lord Mayor has also committed $3.1 million to the maintenance of 31 lakes, enclosed water bodies and ornamental ponds across 29 park sites across the city, including $1.4 million at Forest Lake and the first stage of work at Unbumpin Lagoon at a cost of over $200,000. We'll also spend nearly $300,000 to rehabilitate and upgrade the city's memorials and sites of cultural heritage within parks, including at Walter Hill Fountain, Sandgate Memorial Park, Bulimba Memorial Park, Ashgrove Memorial Park and Keating Park. From 2021, the curation of Sherwood Arboretum will be included under the same budget line as Mount Cootha Botanic Gardens. Sherwood Arboretum is recognised as Brisbane's third botanic garden. I know the Lord Mayor has been there recently, meeting with residents and friends of the Arboretum who are looking forward to celebrating the 100th anniversary in March 25. Additionally, we're preparing for the 50th birthday of the Brisbane Botanic Gardens at Mount Cootha, which officially opened in 1976. Mr. Chair, as we know all too well, Brisbane is built on a floodplain. Waterway health and sustainability, as well as preparing for flooding, make up a key part of this program. The Lord Mayor continues to invest in developing, planning and engagement services to help guide the management of our city's water resources. Currently, water levels in the South East Queensland water grid are below 65%, prompting drought readiness under SEQ Water's Drought Response Plan. The Water Smart Future Service is helping us prepare to meet for the challenges of potential future drought restrictions. Water meters will be installed at locations based on audits at 50 key council sites. The trial will test water meter models available on the market and their compatibility with council's operating systems. 3.8 million will be spent to improve waterway health and function and deliver a range of waterway rehabilitation projects. These include revegetation, bank protection, fish passage improvements, in-stream habitat rehabilitation and water quality improvements. The Flood Resilient Homes program continues this year. Launched in June 2018, it provides practical assistance to properties affected by frequent overland flow flooding. The award-winning program, recognised nationally, helps fund changes in homes to make sure residents can quickly recover from flood events. This administration has a strong track record and we have a wide-ranging agenda when it comes to creating a clean, green and sustainable Brisbane. We don't deal in platitudes, we walk the talk and we lead by example. In wrapping up, Mr. Chair, I want to give my personal thanks to the whole Natural Environment Water Sustainability branch within Council who have assisted in bringing me up to speed with this huge program in just the short time I've been Chair. To Andrea, Tim, Lachlan, Elizabeth, Wade, Dave and Kate, thank you for your support. To my own team, Ian, Stephanie, Dean, Danny, Helen and Michael, Deputy Chair, Councillor Davis and my incredibly patient family who make their own sacrifices, I say thank you.
Councillor Cunningham, your time has expired. Councillor Marks.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's my pleasure to speak for the first time as Chairman for City Standards Community Health and Safety present Program 3 to the Chamber today as part of the Lord Mayor's annual budget. I'd like to recognise the Councillor Dave McLaughlin, Councillor Peter Maddock and Councillor Vicky Howard for all the work they've done in this portfolio previously. I'd like to focus on the waste and resource recovery services, specifically on Program 3.5, Managing and Reducing Brisbane's Waste and Litter. As the Lord Mayor and others have mentioned previously, this budget has been a very tough budget and tough decisions have had to be made. Due to the severe economic impacts on our city of the coronavirus pandemic, we have taken the very tough decision to postpone the Curbside Collection service until July 2022. I use the word postpone very intentionally as we have budgeted for the return of this service in July 2022. And as the Lord Mayor has stated on a number of occasions, if we can bring it back sooner, then we will absolutely do so. The decision to postpone was not made lightly. Keeping Brisbane clean and green and sustainable is extremely important to all of us, and providing a cost-effective and efficient waste service forms a key part of this goal. Many households still need to be able to dispose of household rubbish both responsibly and affordably, and so this budget has funding to ensure that all Brisbane households, including tenants, will receive waste vouchers to meet this need. I can inform the Chamber that the intention is that all waste vouchers will be received by all households by the 31st of July 2020. Managing and reducing our city's waste is never a single silver bullet approach. And I encourage residents to remember that items can still be taken to their local resource recovery centres at Nudgee, Willawong, Ferny Grove and Chandler for disposal. If the items are in good condition, they can be donated for free to be resold at Council's tip shop. It's also worthwhile remembering that many Brisbane charities also offer a pickup service of quality pre-loved furniture, and there are also local businesses who offer rubbish removal services for a small fee. In fact, both Channel 7's and Channel 9 had stories on this in the news the other night, and Lifeline was actually actively requesting furniture for their showrooms, and they actually showed some footage of some empty showrooms where they had virtually nothing there. So those who have done that Corona's cleanup, as we're now calling it, give your Lifeline a call or get along to those tip shops and donate your stuff there, because they will receive it with open arms. But unfortunately, for those items that are not recyclable, make sure you use your waste voucher to dispose of those items responsibly. As I mentioned earlier, this is a very tough budget, and a big part of that is just getting on with the job. With that in mind, I would like to just deliver a couple of the key deliverables for the Lord Mayor's budget. As we've mentioned, we're offering the free delivery of a larger recycling bin from the 1st of July. That will entail ringing the contact centre, asking them that you would like to swap your current 240 size recycling bin for a larger one, which will actually give you a recycling capacity of 150%. You can ring the contact centre to organise that, and the drivers will come out and sort that out for you. We also have the compost and worm farm rebate that will provide those free of service for residents. This rebate also begins on the 1st of July 2020. So what happens is residents will go online, they will participate in a video link tutelage to show them about the recycling program. They will be given a unique code which they can then use. They go off and buy their recycling bin, and it doesn't have to be at the big national places that people are generally associate with buying composting or room recycling. Any reputable place is fine, as long as they get an appropriate receipt that has the relevant information on it. Then the rebate will be paid back to the resident. So we recognise that our waste streams are constantly changing, and in response to this, we're linking all our waste and resource recovery services, programs and services together so that we can target behaviour change across our key stakeholder groups. Those are the groups such as home, schools, community, council, business, building, awards, and then our sponsorships. This budget continues to focus on key projects to improve diversion of waste to landfill, including our chip shops, green waste collection service, and enhanced recycling services in the public places. The budget also provides internal improvements as well, with a customer contact centre system replacement that will deliver a new customer service and request management solution. This solution will ensure that waste and resource recovery services have the technology to both maintain the efficiency of waste collection services both now and into the future. In closing, Chair, I recommend Program 3 to the Council Chamber. Thank you.
Further speakers?
Point of order, Chair.
Point of order to you, Councillor Landers.
Mr Chair, I move that Council now adjourn for morning tea for 15 minutes, which commences only when all councillors have left the meeting.
Second.
It's been moved by Councillor Landers, seconded by Councillor Hutton. This meeting adjourned for the purpose of morning tea for a period of 15 minutes, commencing when all councillors have left the meeting. All those in favour say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Can you please lower your hands? All those against say no and raise your hand. Thank you. The ayes have it. The meeting is adjourned for 15 minutes. Welcome back. Councillors, are there any further speakers?
Yes. Sorry, did you give me the call, Chair?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yes, I'm looking to respond to what we've just heard from Councillor Cunningham and to talk about this Clean Green Sustainability Program. Councillor Cumming will be speaking as a secondary speaker in this program in regards to the waste line of this program. But let me start with the proportion that Councillor Cunningham raised. It's disappointing, this program, that when you actually start to look at it, there have been a number of very significant cuts in what it delivers. Unfortunately, none of that was raised by Councillor Cunningham. I think the thing that I took out of Councillor Cunningham's speech, and I agree with her on, was the impact of COVID and the way people are spending more time in their local communities, and more importantly, wanting to be involved in their local communities and to participate and be involved in our parks, which is why it's so disappointing the way the administration has handled this particular program. So let's have a look at the cuts. Green Heart Home and Schools program has been cut by 100,000. The Community Conservation Assistance program has been cut by 250,000. BrisMap drainage data has gone. Flood Smart Assets has gone from the program. Floodwise sourcing has also gone from the program. Fountains and water features, that's been numerous releases, numerous PR stunts by the Lord Mayor. It's disappeared from the program. Gone is land contamination management. Bushland acquisition has been reduced, disappointingly, by $1 million on the projected income that we were expecting to spend this year. For those who love jacaranda planting, that has gone from the program, cutting 100K. Delivery of new parks in Brisbane has taken a hit of $5 million. Upgrading neighbourhood parks has taken a hit of $700,000. Now, I heard Councillor Cunningham talk about the Green Future Fund. It last year had a line item projection of 22 million. Councillor Cunningham was talking about it being 15 million this year. It isn't showing up in the budget records. And gone is rehabilitation of stormwater assets. These are significant losses to the program and significant hits on a program that should be the program that sings about what we're doing in a city and sings about what we do or what this administration is doing. I also was interested to note there was an announcement several years ago by the Lord Mayor of a major sporting field delivery for Windsor and Rocklea. And that was in last year's budget and in this year's budget. But what has dropped off that particular program and what the Lord Mayor announced is Rocklea. So we're delivering a great new sporting precinct at Windsor, but the whole concept of delivering one at Rocklea has suddenly disappeared. Now, the only thing that I can see is that one is in an LNP area and one is in a Labor area. So I would ask Councillor Cunningham to actually say, what has happened to the Rocklea promise? Where has that gone? Why aren't there millions of dollars being spent on that, given that there was a commitment by Councillor Quirk and the LNP for that to happen? At the moment, that land sits vacant. Now, I'm particularly concerned about waterways and drainage. As a councillor, I know many councillors are affected by this issue. Stormwater infrastructure has had a significant cut of $3.7 million. $3.7 million to stormwater infrastructure. Drainage contributed assets has been cut by $6 million. Major waterway vegetation management has been cut by 100,000, and we all know that that's a program that actually needs to be expanded. And I know I met with Councillor Marks, and she was in agreement and actually was saying that this is one of her biggest issues across the city, is vegetation management and waterways. What are we seeing the administration doing? We're seeing them cut it. Cyclical desilting of waterways has also been cut in half. These are everyday programs delivering for the residents of Brisbane, and yet this administration and this Lord Mayor see them as something as extras and want to cut them. I know Councillor Cumming will talk about the cut curbside collection. I know I'm receiving phone calls, many phone calls from residents in my office about why that has been cut. Many of those are elderly residents. They're residents with a disability who depend on that program. And it's fine to say take it to Lifeline. The reality is residents have come to depend on that. But most disappointing for me, and I know Councillor Cunningham loves the environment, and she's passionate about our bushland groups and our volunteers. And we had discussions at committee about expanding the program of creek catchment officers and Habitat Brisbane officers. And both of us, as well as Councillor Marks, I know a number of Labor councillors, have volunteers who want to be involved in that program. But disappointingly, we've put no extra assets into that. And that's a program where we have 8,000 volunteers. Imagine if we doubled that number of volunteers. Imagine if we were able to harness that for our city. It wouldn't just be good for our residents, it'd be good for our waterways and good for us as a council in what we're delivering. So I'm particularly disappointed that program hasn't been expanded. And I'll put that down to Councillor Cunningham being new to the role and not being able to influence the budget in time in her role. But Councillor Cunningham, I'm hoping in future years, this is an area that we can expand because it needs to be expanded and it's the right thing to do. Disappointingly, our Community Conservation Partnership program was slashed by half. So from 479 to 238. The other area that's disappeared from the program, and I give him his dues, Campbell Newman introduced this, the Voluntary Home Buyback Scheme. Of course, I was pushing him to introduce this, has been removed from the program. So it's not there, it's been repurposed, whatever you want to call it, it's disappeared. And there's no intention of us to buy any homes in this program. So that is disappointing because that is really strategic in terms of us as a council buying homes where livable space is affected by Q1 or Q2. Which means those people flood either once or twice a year in livable areas of their home. So for that program to have gone is a mistake by the administration. The other one that's very evasive by the administration is carbon credits. We are a carbon neutral organisation, but we're doing it on the cheap, because we buy most of those credits overseas. Now, you can explain where we're doing it, but I believe that, and Labor believes that those carbon credits should be bought in Australia, bought in where it contributes to our economy, where it contributes to our betterment of what we're doing in terms of the environment, where it actually produces results at home. And yes, I know the argument would be, well, we all live on one planet. Stop doing the cheapskating and actually put the money back into Australia and into our country, the local projects that need to be backed. And it's a mistake for that not to be happening. Look, overall, this is a very important program for the city. Every councillor benefits from this program. Every citizen benefits from this program. And it's disappointing that the LNP has chosen to back so many cuts. It's disappointing that the LNP hasn't delivered on their promises, such as the sports fields at Rocklea. It's particularly disappointing, and all we need is a storm for us to show that the waterways and drainage are being mismanaged by this administration that has seen that that's where you take a cut to. And finally, the way we're missing out on our opportunity to expand the habitat program for this city, when we all know the community love habitat, they love our bushland, that is really a missed opportunity as well. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak, Mr. Chairman.
Further speakers? Yeah, Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I rise to speak on Program 3, Clean, Green and Sustainable City. I'd like to start by thanking Councillors Cunningham and Marks for their very comprehensive presentations at the Program 3 budget information sessions. And I certainly walked away from those presentations clearly in mind that this administration is absolutely committed to keeping Brisbane clean, green and sustainable. And I'm very proud to be part of a team committed to carbon neutrality and working in partnership with residents, businesses and community groups to ensure that Brisbane remains a sustainability leader in Australia. Mr Chair, Brisbane has an expanding network of over 2,100 parks, maintaining more than 15,000 hectares of urban parkland and bushland for residents to enjoy. We're continuing to provide well-maintained and clean facilities, playgrounds and general park amenities so that residents can make the best use of our parks and open spaces. In the 2021 financial year, Council will continue our Delivering Iconic Parks program. This program is supported by $15 million through our Green Future Fund. This program helps to ensure Brisbane's key city park network meets the needs and expectations of residents by planning for and delivering upgrades to park facilities to enhance the visitor experience they provide. And of course, to deliver key city park upgrade works in accordance with approved park master plans and conservation management plans. This year, McDowell Ward will benefit from funding for continued work in the Grinstead, Corbett and Shan Street Parks project. These three adjoining parks provide well-connected green space for a range of recreational activities, including use of the playgrounds, multi-use games and sporting facilities, exercise equipment and picnic facilities. This project aims to enhance the existing facilities and provide a greater range of recreational opportunities that will cater to a broad spectrum of the community. It's a fantastic upgrade project and I'm excited to see it go moving ahead, as I'm sure you are, Mr Chair. Mr Chair, in this financial year, our Maintaining Suburban Parks project will also continue to reconstruct, rehabilitate and upgrade existing surfaced and unsurfaced roads, car parks, access tracks and bridges in our parks and natural areas. This program also provides for inspection programs to ensure that future works are prioritised based on the evidence of condition, safety and compliance. Locally, $180,000 of funding has been secured to improve Terrace Park in Everton Park. Council will repair the roadway edges off Osborne Road and remediate the lower section of the car park next to the Mitchelton Soccer Club to treat some erosion issues there. Mr Chair, this administration has also provided funding for the playground replacements project. With over 1,200 playground nodes in our city parks, this program focuses on rehabilitating and replacing playground equipment in existing playgrounds to meet Australian standards and council policies and making them accessible and inclusive for children of all ages and abilities. As part of this program, $133,000 is being provided for the upgrade of Beckett Road Park in McDowell. In heavy rain, this park is at risk of creek flooding and can experience overland flow. The funding this year gives options to relocate the replacement playground equipment should that be needed. I'm also very pleased that Council has allocated $86,000 for the half basketball court in Terrace Park in Everton Park to be upgraded. It's a very, very popular park where the facilities are well used, and this upgrade to the half court will be warmly welcomed by residents. McDowell Ward is home to many of Brisbane's best parks and reserves. This year's Conservation Reserve Management Program will ensure that we are prioritising and focusing on works that are considered essential for the effective management of Brisbane's natural areas. This program has some great initiatives in it, and I'm really excited that funding has been secured for stage 1 of the construction of a viewing observation point at Milne Hill Outlook in Chermside West. The design work has already been undertaken for this project, and when the project is completed, it will provide residents and visitors an enhanced experience of the walking trails leading up to the viewing point. Mr Chair, Program 3 also provides for the local Waterways Health Assessment and Evaluation Project. This program helps council gauge the status and pressures on Brisbane's waterways that impact ecological health. In addition to this, council's major waterways vegetation management project has assisted in identifying a number of priority sites across flooding hotspots. Works under this program involve vegetation management within these major waterways to restore flood conveyance capacity. The environmental values of these waterways will also be enhanced by the introduction of native vegetation instead of weeds. As part of this program, McDowell Ward has been allocated $56,000 for Cabbage Tree Creek at Albany Creek Road in Aspley and Beckett Road in Bridgman Downs. The Cabbage Tree Creek is an integral part of the Cabbage Tree Creek catchment that flows from the Taylor Range through the northern suburbs, Brisbane, into Moreton Bay. The waterway is also an important part of surrounding wildlife corridors, which are home to a wide variety of native wildlife species. Mr. Chair, I'd also like to take a moment to highlight a lesser-known part of Program 3, Sustainable Water Management. Although council does not control the water coming into your house, we do look after the drain that moves it away. Council is at the leading edge nationally in stormwater harvesting reuse. Since 2006, we've created 30 stormwater harvesting assets through the investment of over $20 million. This system has the capacity to harvest over 400 megalitres of water per year to irrigate the sporting fields of over 100 sports clubs and support thousands of people in the community to pursue a healthy and active lifestyle. This reclaimed stormwater provides enormous benefits to the local sporting community that utilise these facilities and also provides direct reduction in the use of potable water. Mr. Chair, this administration is also committed to creating resilient, strong communities that can actively prepare for severe weather events, including flooding. Our Flood Resilient Homes program was launched as a pilot in June 2018, initially focusing on frequent flooding risks in the Rosalie and Inala precincts. But last year, the program was expanded to a further 2 suburbs, and now 901 homeowners have been invited to this program. The program provides up to $50,000 in flood resilient home retrofits, which include the relocation of electrical supply and services, the replacement of floors and walls with more resilient materials, and in some instances, up to $100,000 for the raising of homes. In 2019 and 2020, 112 homeowners received a home service under this program. 112 homes have been identified for flood resilience retrofits, and 46 retrofits have been delivered through the incentive scheme. In this financial year, $3.6 million has been allocated to continue this program so that retrofits can be completed through the program. Mr. Chair, I'd just like to say a few words about composting hubs. In McDowell Ward, we are lucky to have 2 composting hubs, firstly at the Downfall Creek Environment Centre in Chermside West and the other at the Nest Community in Everton Park. These 2 hubs actively encourage residents to pop down on a regular basis and put their food scraps in the garden compost bins. They also take the opportunity to educate residents about the benefits of composting when they're there. These sites are well patroned, and a great little story is that a local kindy whose children walk a trolley to Downfall Creek with their weekly kitchen scraps also pop into some of the older residents' home and collect their additional waste while they're on the way. So young or old, this is a terrific program to become involved in to reduce the amount of organic waste that we create. I would also add that the Kitchen Caddy program is also very popular in the McDowell Ward. They are certainly a popular takeaway from the ward or at my mobile offices so that residents can take their scraps to the local composting hubs. Mr. Chair, in closing, this administration has demonstrated once again that we can deliver on our commitments to have a balanced, sensible budget, but continue to help Brisbane be clean, green and sustainable. Congratulations to Councillors Cunningham and Marks for their work in these very challenging times, and I commend this excellent program to the Chamber.
Further speakers? Councillor Cumming.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, the Councillor Davis referred to composting hubs. The one in my area has been closed since the pandemic started, and despite advice on the council's website that they were being reopened, it still hasn't reopened. So I'll be interested to know what's happening there across the city. In outcome 3.5, managing and reducing Brisbane's waste and litter, reminds me of the old saying, the more things change, the more they stay the same. The administration has run out of ideas in the waste and litter space. Also, there's the budget document shows a substantial reduction in the amount of expense on this program compared to what was in last year's budget. It's down some 18% or $33 million. And for the next financial year, it's down 17% or $34 million. So substantial. And that's not just, that can't be explained by the large items collection having been scrapped for the time being. Progressive councils throughout Australia have been supplying residents with what they call FOGO bins, food organic, garden organic bins. Residents can place not only garden waste, but fruit scraps. These FOGO bins are provided by a large number of councils across Australia. Private operators are happy to collect the waste and make compost, which is used to make the council area the greenest place you could imagine, or it also can be supplied to farmers in the region. The amount of methane produced in council landfills is slashed. Now, this LNP administration needs to get up with what's happening across Australia and introduce FOGO bins in Brisbane. Instead, what do they propose? Mr. Chair, the LNP propose a return to the past, providing a rebate on the cost of compost bins or worm farms. This was done several decades ago. In the past, some service clubs like Rotary used to actually deliver the bins free of charge on behalf of council, but now the council will be providing a rebate and you'll have to arrange your own delivery. But worst of all, of course, and this is what this budget has overall has been known for, is the this ending of the curbside collection program. This is a very popular program, and we predict this will annoy and anger many residents, the decision of the council. Again, this is a step back in the past and using the COVID-19 pandemic as an excuse for bad policy. I predict the amount of rubbish dumped along roads and in bushland areas will skyrocket over the next 2 years. Also, there's always the fear that once something is taken away by any level of government, that it may never return. Also, this LNP administration continue with the institutionalised rip-off of small business ratepayers in the city. Small businesses pay the same amount as residential ratepayers for waste management, so $350.92 per annum, but do not get a recycling bin unless they pay extra for a recycling service. The administration pretends to be the friends of a small business, and in fact, they're ripping them off. The more things change, the more things stay the same under the LNP.
Further speakers? Councillor Toomey.
Thank you, Chair. I first would like to address Councillor Cummings' comment regarding FOGO. We know from previous committee presentations that roughly the average Brisbane household throws away roughly $3,500 worth of food into their bin on a yearly basis. For many Brisbane families, this is a family holiday. This council has been encouraging the community not to throw their food waste away, but to buy what they need and use as they go. And we did that program through Love Food, Hate Waste. And personally, my own household, we've reduced our food waste to around 5 litres of food waste a week for a family of 4, which is quite easy to compost using the recommended programs that Council has through the composting system. So in terms of providing a FOGO system for Brisbane as a local government area, some of the challenges we would face are around the humidity that we have in the area, the food rotting in place, which is also of some issue, and it's attractant to pests such as rats. This is something that we don't want to see as a city. We would rather see people conserve their cash, consume the food that they buy on a weekly basis, therefore not throwing away the food into the bin and generating methane. This is the idea that we've gone out to the community with. This is the idea that my family and my household run with, and it's been quite successful for our own particular circumstance. Moving on to further items in Program 3, like many of our wards, they're diverse. My ward has old structures in it, some homes up to 120 years old. Then in Upper Kedron, we have homes where the concrete is still curing. Historically, my ward's main industry has been extractive industry. There's been 7 quarries through the Gap ward over a period of time, and that has been interceded by agriculture, which sort of ceased around the 60s. For a young colony and a growing Brisbane, the Gap ward area provided the raw stone for the quarries, for the roads and the buildings, and fresh fruit and produce sold in our corner stores and local shops. Today, if you go for a walk along the kilometres of pathway that we have in the Gap ward, you could be mistaken that the green leafy suburb has always been this way. This is not so. Programs like Clean Green and Sustainable City have provided the means for transformative outcomes for the Gap and for the city in turning an area that was basically extractive industry and agriculture into an urban environment of flora and fauna that we celebrate today. Brisbane is Australia's most biodiverse capital. No one would have expected when Lord Mayor Sally Ann Atkinson planted the first tree in Enoggera Creek in Ashgrove with a group of locals that today we would have a young koala doe choose to raise her joey in Ashgrove. That's less than 6 kilometres from the CBD. No other capital city in Australia can make that claim, that we have wild koalas breeding within 6 kilometres of the CBD. Program 3 and the funding provided through this program is transformative to our city. This budget delivers land remediation outcomes in Sunset Park in Ashgrove and in Capera Picnic Ground in Ferny Grove under service item 3.2.3.1. These projects, in combination with the natural waterway projects, to be delivered under item 3.4.1.4 on Ross Road and Curly Crescent in Upper Kedron, both on Cedar Creek South, and Corby Street in Ashgrove on Enoggera Creek, will improve the catchments of Enoggera and Kedron Brook and provide improvements to the area for community use. In areas of conservation, as councillors will know, the Capera bushland expanded over the past 2 years. Under this budget, the administration are continuing to tackle the problem of noxious weeds in Capera and further reducing the impact of weeds in the upper reaches of the Kedron Brook catchment. I'm also pleased to see works will begin on erosion management along the Colkin Tract. This is a popular pedestrian route between Barden and the Gap. I know Councillor Maddock is very supportive of this project and will further improve the area for our residents to take advantage of the great outdoors and enjoy the natural environment in their backyards. For all the walkers who stop by for a chat at a number of times on my regular community corner, on the corner of Sanford and Upper Kedron Road, this budget has made provisions to close the loop on their daily stroll along Upper Kedron Road. Moving on to 3.3.3.2, Memorials and Heritage. Councillor Cunningham mentioned the Ashgrove Memorial Park. This park was established in the 1920s to acknowledge the soldiers of the Great War, but it has never been really used for its intended use, with Stewart Place being the preferred option for our returned soldiers. Almost 100 years has passed, and this memorial place will become a permanent space for our Anzac Day ceremony. And I want to pass my thanks on to the Lord Mayor from a grateful community and a local RSL chapter for providing funding to create a space reflective of its original intent. Stormwater is always a challenge, and this administration is undertaking 2 major projects in Ashgrove and the Gap. Both of these projects will improve the movement of water at times of significant event and improve the egress of water in areas impacted by severe capacity. This program will continue to have a transformative effect on our subtropical city, improve our natural urban environment, cool our city, shade our streets with natural shade, and continue to rehabilitate bushland, maintain and establish natural corridors. This Lord Mayor is investing in green and ecological outcomes like no other predecessor, and truly walks the walk and talks the talk in his green boots. Finally, I'd like to thank the Lord Mayor, Councillor Cunningham, Councillor Marks, for provisions under this program. And I'd also like to thank council officers for their involvement in this program and the huge number of volunteers who work alongside our habitat groups and our wildlife carers to improve our urban environment and ensure Brisbane continues to be the most biodiverse capital city and koala capital of Australia. I commend the program to the Chamber.
Further speakers? Councillor Cassidy.
Thanks, Chair. Talking on this program, I'll cover a few items, but I'll start with waste management and pick up where Councillor Toomey left off on a couple of points there. But this area of this program in this budget should be about innovation instead of capitulation, Chair. Councillor Marks in the information sessions admitted that the Rochdale dump is just about full and perhaps has a couple of years left in it. We know that the best part of 80,000 tonnes of compostable material is going into landfill each and every year. So that's the FO of FOGO going into Brisbane's landfill each and every year. Councillor Toomey talked about the issue of that type of material sitting in a FOGO bin and the issues of humidity and temperature in Brisbane. Well, the reality is that sort of material is currently sitting in a bin for a week. It's just the general waste bin that's then going into general landfill. So those issues of Brisbane's climate and Brisbane's temperature and the frequency of rubbish collection are not big issues to overcome in Brisbane. They are starting that up the road in Ipswich, which is hotter than it is here in Brisbane. So that's not a valid argument for a body of work to be, that's not a valid argument against a body of work to be happening right now. And that's what should be happening in this budget, Chair. So we need to be seeing that at great speed. Now, Councillor Toomey said one of the ways that we can extend the life of what we currently do here in Brisbane is by investing in things like the Love Food Hate Waste program, which has been cut this year. So, I mean, it's good that he's doing it in his own home, but it's not good that council is no longer supporting those initiatives to encourage people to throw away less food at home, and at the same time not investing and not doing the work on introducing a full FOGO service. It makes so much sense to have that conversation, Chair, and it's something that we have taken upon ourselves as Labor councillors to do, to have that conversation. And we started a community survey, and for the benefit of councillors, I'll share some of the information with you all. So we've had about 2,000 responses to date. About 58% of people hadn't heard of FOGO before they took that survey. 46% said they composted at home, 5% use a composting hub, and 47% don't do either. So that does indicate that composting hubs just aren't a viable option for the vast majority of people here in Brisbane, and they won't reduce in any significant way the 80,000 tonnes of organic waste that is going into landfill. 98% of people think we should start a FOGO service here in Brisbane, and 95% of people would use that service if it was available. The top 5 things that are being put into a general bin that people would put into a FOGO bin include fruit and veg scraps at 91%, tea bags and coffee grinds at 80%, eggshells at 78%, weeds at 76%, and grass clippings at 76%. So people understand that this service will be a good thing to reduce the amount of organic waste going into the general waste stream. 93% believe a FOGO bin will reduce that general waste that their household produces as an individual household. So that certainly is a very clear indication that people of Brisbane are very happy to have this conversation and are very keen to see a service like this progressing. Some of the feedback, Chair, that we received in terms of comments are also very informative. One of the respondents said they don't have a use for a compost system at their house, or they don't currently use one. So it'd be amazing to have the council take it and put it to better use than ending up in landfill. Another said it was a brilliant idea and knows so many people that want to compost but find home composting too complicated. And the perfect solution and to reduce waste by a huge amount would be FOGO. So please implement. And another said we would love to see this introduced as part of a green sustainability project. Works amazingly in other communities and easily reduces general waste landfill, and that's what we should be striving for. So we couldn't agree more with that, and we're very happy to be able to contribute to this debate and to, in many ways, lead the debate that we're having here in Brisbane about food organics, garden organics. Keeping on the waste theme, Chair, we need to talk about curbside collections. Now, I, along with thousands of Brisbane residents, were absolutely gobsmacked that the Lord Mayor would actually gloat about the cutting of curbside collections in his budget speech. It's normally the sort of thing, and I suppose in hindsight he probably regrets that. It's the sort of thing you just see hidden away, but he took it upon himself, Chair, to actually gloat about cutting that essential service. He said it wasn't an essential service, but we know in his view that an advertising budget for this council is probably more essential than curbside collection. But we think the management of waste is absolutely a core responsibility of council. Curbside collections were, Chair, one of the great levellers. It meant people who couldn't otherwise get to the dump could dispose of waste without great cost. Elderly people, people living with a disability, that option now is no longer there for them. I was contacted yesterday by a pensioner living in Zilmere, Chair, and she says the following. Jared, I'm an aged pensioner in government housing at Zilmere. We have a washing machine and a microwave I need to dispose of. And as the Lord Mayor has now cancelled curbside cleanup for 2 years, I have no way of getting rid of them. I do not have any close family who can help me. And even if I had tip vouchers, they would be of no use as I do not drive. Are you able to assist me in any way? We have assisted that pensioner now, Chair, and we're helping her to dispose of those items. But this is just one example of so many we're going to see over the next 2 years of people unfairly disadvantaged by the decisions of this administration. I just thought I would share some of the comments we have received from residents of Brisbane and ratepayers of Brisbane when they heard about this service being cut. Sharon said, such a shame, it's a really useful and appreciated service. Jill said, what on earth is he, the Lord Mayor, thinking? It's a really bad idea to cancel such a valuable service to us ratepayers. I hope he sees sense and changes this ridiculous decision. We couldn't agree more, Jill. Lisa said, I still got a bloody colour magazine patting themselves on the back. Greg said, bugger, we don't have a car to get to the dump and rely on the curbside collection each year. Sue said, this is a bad decision. So many households have had cleanups and want to rid their properties of unnecessary clutter. Big mistake to not have this yearly curbside collection. Todd said, bizarre choice, and Corbyn said, when will the injustices end? And we agree, when will they end under this administration? Probably never. When a council chair can afford to advertise itself, but they can't afford to pick up rubbish, there is something fundamentally wrong with this budget. On the Green Future Fund, Chair, Councillor Cunningham confirmed that what we realised would be happening when CBIC didn't pay council a dividend last year is that the Green Future Fund would be wound back and potentially in the future wound up. We know that those dividends are dodgy that are being paid to council, and we see here writ large that has been wound back by $5 million this year. So that is one massive failure of rhetoric over reality over the last couple of years. On carbon neutral, Councillor Griffiths covered off on that. It's very clear that if we want to be a council that is genuinely committed to carbon neutrality and moving towards not just a carbon neutral council organisation, but a carbon neutral city, we need to be investing in the types of carbon offset programs that benefit not only us in offsetting our carbon emissions, but benefit local communities, not just here in Queensland, but all over Australia that do those projects. So we need to see more investment in that. On some local projects, Chair, moving on to those quite rapidly now, I think I'm running out of time. The Brighton Foreshore, councillors in here would know for a while that this has been a project I've been passionate about since I've been a councillor. It's something the LNP promised would be done as far back as 2008. That funding was given and then it was taken. The upgrade of the Brighton foreshore was something talked about extensively at the last election. And after our community efforts, we did elicit a commitment from the Lord Mayor to kick this project off. So seeing and having confirmed by Councillor Cunningham that funding is now allocated to start the work on consultation and design is great news. And it's something that is more than just a Brighton project. It is very much a citywide project for everyone to enjoy. So that is very important work, and I'll be getting in and involved in that. We know the paths are narrow and dangerous. There are next to no facilities or seating, and there's no toilet block for kilometres from the Sandgate Pool right up to Decker Park. So there is plenty of work to do. On the Iron Bumper Lagoon, again, councils will know my very strongly held views on the need for better management of this lagoon and the need for more funding to carry it out. And after many years of lobbying, we last year got the draft management plan in place. And instead of treating it as business as usual each and every year, we now know that this is a project that needs special attention. I met Councillor Cunningham on site a few weeks ago to discuss elements of that plan, and I'm sure she appreciated how important that work is going forward.
And expired.
Thanks, Chair.
Further speakers? Councillor Atwood. Councillor Atwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also rise to speak on Program 3 and in particular the exciting upgrades that are happening in my ward of Doughboy and our city's waterway health. Now, waterway management is a tricky one. Water falls from the sky, it travels through our drainage network, flows through our creeks and state-managed rivers and into other council areas as well. Now, when managing our waterways, I think it's safe to say that water has no boundaries. Therefore, it is critical that a strategic water management approach is undertaken and that Brisbane City Council collaborates with our regional partners so that together we can manage and work together towards improving our water quality. I recently had the wonderful opportunity to go out with the Ocean Crusaders to help clean up the Bulimba Creek near the mouth of the Brisbane River. Ian is a true inspiration. He started Ocean Crusaders in 2006 with the goal to help clean up plastics and other nasties from our waterways. But it was great to get out with Ian last month to help clean up over a ton of rubbish, including washed up tyres, old boat parts, foam, plastics, old fencing materials, and bottles tangled amongst the mangroves. But I really appreciated the time to speak with him about his concerns and also other ideas on how we can improve our waterway health. And that's why I would like to commend Council for page 58 of this year's budget book, Service 3.4.1.3, which enables Council to draw on its knowledge, expertise and innovative approach from our best practice leaders. These partnerships allow delivery of strategic investment, cost-effective solutions and innovative approaches for integrated water management across the city and within our regional catchments in South East Queensland. Secondly, I'd like to talk about the Resilient Rivers Initiative, which facilitates cross-boundary investment in South East Queensland waterways. The Resilient Rivers Initiative, instigated by the South East Queensland Council of Mayors in 2014, acknowledges that much of the sediment in the Brisbane River originates in upper catchment areas outside of our local government area. The importance of a regional focus for sustainable water management was highlighted by the extreme weather events in 2011. When significant rains caused stormwater runoff and erosion that washed sediment into the waterways, resulting in major waterway quality treatment concerns at our Mount Crosby water treatment plant, Brisbane's primary water supply. Broader catchment issues like this require partnerships with strong leadership and coordinated regional actions. And our actions are paying off. Over the past few years, we have seen dolphins coming up the Brisbane River again, and it is so amazing to see. And I would like to commend the Lord Mayor's significant investment into this project and for the continuation of its funding. Now to some other funding that I warmly welcome in the Doughboy ward, my parks. Like all of us, I absolutely love my parks and so excited to see the community involved in building some amazing parks for my residents. Some of these exciting upgrades include planning the early works for two of Brisbane's iconic parks, including the Murray Recreation Reserve and Comesley Beach Reserve. Combsley Beach Reserve's unique underwater design is absolutely loved. However, over the years, it has started to look a little tired and is in some need of some significant restoration works. But this funding will do so much more than restoring the playground, but continue to improve it. Last year, I held a number of community consultations at the park over the school holidays and weekends to hear from families on what they would like to see added to this terrific park. Some of the suggestions included the addition of water play, more seating, additional picnic shelters as it is a very popular birthday park, lighting, an all abilities play area, providing children with disabilities to feel included, improvements to the Learn to Ride area, and so much more. Over the coming 12 months, Council will start the task of its detailed plan in correlation with the community's feedback. Now, the other park that I'm very excited about is upgrades to the Murray Recreation Reserve. Earlier this week, I had the opportunity to walk around the park with Council's project manager, Helena. We spoke about the park's incredible opportunity with it being so close to Brisbane's velodrome, located only 10 kilometres away at the Chandler Sports Centre. Its incredible access via public transport and bikeways also. This upgrade does not only aim to achieve a state-of-the-art closed site circuit criterion, but the addition of a BMX track and a Learn to Ride area and lighting upgrades so we can make the most of this terrific park. I'm so excited to continue consulting with peak bodies and locals to deliver an outcome not only for residents, but cyclists across the globe. Now, this budget doesn't just focus on major parks, but a long list of smaller local playgrounds right here across the city, including She Oak Park in Tingalpa, that are loved by their neighbourhoods. And I'm excited to work with residents around She Oak Park to make a playground upgrade just for them. Mr. Chair, I would like to commend this budget to the Chamber. I truly believe it has a fantastic sustainable approach for our waterways. It remains focused on our clean green city initiatives by supporting our creek catchment groups, habitat groups, and wildlife groups. It also continues to support our schools and sporting organisations through the Lord Mayor's Community Sustainability and Environmental Grants. This year's National School Tree Planting Day will see the majority of my schools participating in planting trees on their grounds. And I would like to thank my the senior arborist for the East Division, Russell, for assisting me to arrange this for my schools. But as Councillor Cunningham said in her opening remarks, we are the largest local government in Australia. We are 100% carbon neutral. We are dedicated to continuing to improve this status with investments in our waterways, growing our green spaces, and now focusing on improving them for residents to enjoy, and for the millions of animals that call Brisbane home too. And for these reasons, I commend this report to the Chamber.
Further speakers? Councillor Johnston.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I rise to speak on Program 5. I'll just start by acknowledging a couple of the good things that are in the budget, and certainly the decision to recognise the Sherwood Arboretum as part of the Botanic Gardens a couple of years ago was a very good decision. This would be something that Foser and I had been working for since Peter Maddock was the councillor, and we had a meeting, I remember, this is pre the floods, so it was 2009 or maybe 2010 in my back office with the senior members of FOSA at that time, you know, pushing for better outcomes for the Arboretum. So it's been a long journey, you know, to see more focus on the Arboretum. The problem with what was announced a couple of years ago about the Arboretum was that it was coming under the Botanic Gardens collection, but at that point there'd been no real funding attached to managing it in any significant way. It was still being treated as a park by council, and it is more than that. It does contain, for those who don't know, a collection of rare, endangered and generally native trees from southeast Queensland. So it's a living tree museum of Indigenous vegetation. And I remember when Dale Arvison came out the first time, and he sort of discovered it. He knows more about trees than anybody in Queensland, I think. and his enthusiasm for it is extraordinary. That's now been matched by Prue Magruder, the Assistant Curator of the Botanic Gardens, and Prue's done a fabulous job over the past year pulling together the disparate parts of council that do the work in the Arboretum to try and get a cohesive approach. So this year, council has announced 2 different lots of funding, and my understanding is the money that's announced across the 4 years, the $215,000, will go to capital works projects to enhance the park's facilities. That's a good thing because the only person who's been doing anything in the Arboretum for the past decade is me through the trust funds. And I've replaced playgrounds, updated playgrounds, put in new equipment, put in signage, tree tags, shelters. So, you know, it's good to see council catching up and investing a little money in the Arboretum. There's also $319,000 in the budget for maintaining suburban parks. I am a little bit unclear about what this actually is for, but I hope that is for the tree and drainage works that are desperately needed to maintain the park environment. So I look forward to working with, well, Prue, not for very much longer, she's off to have a baby, but I look forward to working with her fill-in and our community on progressing the Arboretum. Now, beyond that, it's pretty slim pickings in this program for Tennyson Ward. The only other money essentially is $75,000 for Faulkner Park, which I've been told is to replace the copper logs. So, you know, there's no money for new things in here. The only new park improvements, you know, this year are essentially coming out of the trust funds. And, you know, the Lord Mayor says, oh, just spend it on footpaths or just spend it on, you know, playgrounds. Now we also have to spend it on road projects and it's $500,000. It's not much. So, you know, I'll stretch that as far as I can. But I just want to put this on the record. Over the past few years, council has closed and removed the play equipment from 5 playgrounds in Tennyson Ward. 5. It's only over that period of time provided the funding to replace one of them, that was Turley Street Park last year. All of my trust funds have gone into replacing playgrounds that were unsafe, where council removed the equipment but had not budgeted any funding to replace the playgrounds. And the last of those was started last year and is being finished this year with trust funds, and that's at Hefferon Park, Annerley. The money for Norman Rose Park lighting is sort of being rolled over from last year. Whatever happened there, there's not enough money to do that work. That project's just being rolled over. There is $202,000 in the budget for Graceful Avenue, Graceful. They're not digging up Graceful Avenue. And it was quite interesting. I asked Councillor Cunningham a question about this. And, you know, it's poorly described in the budget book, that's for sure. She gave me a street address, 223 Graceful Avenue, Graceful. Now, presumably she's talking about Bert Sinclair Oval. And I would appreciate Councillor Cunningham clarifying this because I did ask her a question about it. And she did not give the location of the facility or the park. She just gave the street address and then said it was for the Western Oval. So I don't know exactly what she's talking about here. There are 2 ovals at the Graceful Hounds Rugby League Club. Council undertook a major remediation of one of the 2 ovals about 8 or 9 years ago, and the other oval has had no work. So again, I'm guessing that the very experienced LNP administration are referring to the Bert Sinclair Oval. They're referring to the oval that has not been remediated. If it's for something else, it would be useful to know. The problem is the oval that needs doing is Gordon Thompson Oval at Chelmer. It is clear to me that council is deliberately avoiding doing this work. It's been listed as the top priority within the remediation team for several years. All of the work has been done, all of the costings, all of the scoping, everything has been done. and it's a $3 million project. Now, presumably this is why council doesn't want to do it. They don't want to spend $3 million in Tennyson Ward, despite it being listed as council's highest priority. So I'm extremely concerned that when the chairs and the Lord Mayor stand up and say projects are chosen on the basis of need and on the highest priorities, that is an untrue statement. The Gordon Thompson Oval remediation project is essential. Council shut the Oval down 6 years ago because it was unsafe, and they've done nothing to fix it. They've done the behind the scenes work, which I've seen. And as I said, it's extensive. It's fully scoped. It's fully budgeted. It's just not got a commitment in the budget to deliver it. And that's disappointing. There are no backflow valves. There is one stormwater project in Tennyson Ward, but that's not enough given the significant amount of stormwater projects that have been listed, many for 20 plus years. They're in the LGIP and they've not been funded. That is inadequate. The cuts to the tree programs and the waterways management and all of the other things in this budget are very disappointing. I note there'll be no street tree planting projects in Tennyson Ward despite multiple requests by me, and that is problematic. I note that I'm getting no parks facilities upgrades, no DOLA refurbishments. I don't think I've ever had one. In the 12 years I've been here, I've never had a dog park project. The ones that have been done in my ward, again, have been done using trust funds. So, you know, if there's sort of 12 projects a year over 12 years, that's a roughly 144 projects. There's 26 wards. People can do the math. So that kind of thing's really disappointing. So there's just been a systemic underinvestment in Tennyson Ward for many years in this area. And basically the trust funds are just putting a Band-Aid on something that requires open heart surgery. Of course, I will stretch the funds we do have as far as possible. And just for anybody listening, I'll just say that the Lord Mayor talks about every councillor having the same amount of money, but that's just not true. Under one program, the Suburban Enhancement Fund, we all have the same money, but then some councillors are more equal than other councillors because they get major capital allocations under this program. For example, upgrading
like
facilities, $3.2 million, zero for Tennyson Ward. Dog park refurbishments, $1.6 million, zero for Tennyson Ward, and so it goes. But of course, my concerns every year are around stormwater drainage and the lack of investment in stormwater drainage. So I am moving an amendment, which I have just sent through, and I've now lost it because I've just emailed it away. And hopefully I'll have a seconder for this. I move the following amendment to the Clean Green Sustainable City program. Within service 3.4.4.1, maintaining closed drains, council allocates $250,000 to rehabilitate the stormwater drain in the road reserve of Oxley Road, Chelmer, near Powanyena Oval, outside the Sherwood AFL Club. And 2, within service 3.4.4.2, maintain and rehabilitate open drainage expense, council allocates $75,000 to plan and design an upgrade to the open concrete stormwater drain channel traversing Fellberg and Leyshon Parks, Yeronga, behind the village Yeronga.
Seconded.
Thank you.
So I have an amendment moved by Councillor Johnston, seconded by Councillor Shree. I believe has it been received? It's now been forwarded around to everybody. To the amendment, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Look, pretty much since the floods, this has been something that I've moved a motion on every year in the council budget when I've been able to attend. Council does not invest enough money in stormwater drainage across the city. It is hugely problematic that they've stopped doing backflow valves. And this year I've decided, because of COVID, not to push that as hard as I normally would. There are still 35 locations around Brisbane that were identified as part of the AECOM independent report post the floods that have not been done. And several of those, about 15 of those, are in my ward. But I understood this year's budget was difficult, and I did, make some changes to my budget for this year. and I will be back to backflow valves next year in case anybody's missing that delightful discussion from me. However, there are a couple of issues that I cannot let go. One is, for several years now, local residents in Chelmer have been pushing to have the stormwater drain in the road reserve off Oxley Road, Chelmer, which is outside the Sherwood AFL Club and across from Milperra, rehabilitated. And they've been promised that it will be done. Now, there's a very active resident group there. Those residents are flooded in heavy rain, and certainly they want to see their huge rates that they pay being invested into stormwater drainage improvements. And I know that the local resident leading the charge here has been very disappointed that Councillor Cunningham has not replied to him to date. And I hope that either Councillor Cunningham will do that and respond, or perhaps she will speak to the amendment today to explain to Chelmer residents why this stormwater project is not being funded, because it is a necessary project. It wouldn't take much. We need to, the stormwater drain inlet needs to be redesigned, I think is probably the right word, and the capacity of the stormwater drain underneath does need to be improved. It's a simple project that would stop flooding across Oxley Road in heavy rain, stop localised flooding in a park, and have significant amenity benefits for Chelmer residents. So it's certainly something that I think is important. With respect to the second item, we have what I would describe as a functional but very ugly drain that is the main stormwater drain on the south side through Yeronga that runs behind the retirement village. It's a big concrete channel. It overflows regularly, but there's park on either side, so there's no huge, it's not a housing issue, but it is time to look at a plan for the future for how this drain is managed. I note that council's done a lot of work along Kedron Brook, and it's a similar kind of environment here. There is parklands, sporting fields, and there is now a large retirement village, and every single week, one of the residents, there's 350 of them, comes into my office and says, Nicole, the drain needs to be fixed. Nicole, the drain needs to be cleaned. Now, I log this with council, but it must be driving council mad as well. They've got a point. The drain where it enters into the open concrete channel is poorly maintained, and I think that's a design flaw. I think that we could redesign and re-engineer the drain so that it functions more effectively and looks better. So I'm asking for $75,000 to be put aside to do planning for the future. This is a massive stormwater drain, and like has been done on the north side at Kedron Brook, I think that we should be planning for the future here to improve drainage. Of course, the LGIP contains the recommendation for dozens of stormwater drainage projects for Yeronga. They are simply being neglected. They were on the PIP, they were cut, some were put on the LGIP. I can't remember the name of it now, but that future LGIP for the 10 years beyond, the MAPI or whatever it was called, that seems to have died a death. So I don't know what's going on with the long-term planning for infrastructure in Brisbane, because it's just been, it's gone. I think it was called the MAPI. And that was supposed to be done 2 or 3 years ago, but that's never progressed. So it's another failure of, the planning chairpersons that have inhabited that portfolio. So that's an issue. Finally, on this motion, I would just say these are small but important projects that would certainly enhance stormwater management in Tennyson Ward. The first one is on council's capital works list, and for whatever reason is not being progressed, and it should be. Secondly, the second project is about planning for the future, and I'd certainly like to see that done. So I'd encourage all residents to support the motion today, and just to flag, we will be back to backflow valves next year. Thanks.
Further speakers to the amendment? Councillor Sri.
Thanks, Chair. Just to reinforce some of those points Councillor Johnston was making and remind all councillors in this place, particularly Councillor McLaughlin as Chair of Infrastructure, Councillor Cunningham as Chair of this program, and also Councillor Marks, because this touches on her portfolio as well, that when we underinvest in stormwater drainage infrastructure, this drives up costs for the maintenance and replacement of other assets and other council infrastructure around the city. So rather than seeing these costs as being big burdens to bear, we should see this as sensible investment that saves us money in the long term. When we fail to provide proper drainage infrastructure, that causes more erosion and damage, potholes, cracking, etc., to our road network and to our footpaths. It causes more flow-on flooding impacts. We get garden bed mulch washed into drains and messes and muddy patches in parks, etc. So the failure to invest in essential drainage infrastructure projects is costing council money in other areas of the budget. And Councillor Marks in particular, through you, Chair, would see a lot of this through her team and the field services guys having to deal with the consequences of inadequate drainage. So too, Councillor McLaughlin, seeing a rise in costs in terms of road maintenance obligations as a result of the failure to manage drainage effectively. We know that climate change is likely to lead to more extreme weather events in the first place, and that the models and standards we use to work out how much water our drainage network needs to carry are clearly out of date and need revision to ensure that they're able to handle those particularly heavy rainfall events. So with the greatest respect to the Chair, Councillor Cunningham, I do think we need to be pushing for more investment, particularly in stormwater drainage infrastructure like these projects that Councillor Johnston has identified, and recognise that it might make sense to cut spending in some other areas in order to pay for this sort of work. So if there's a sense that there's not enough money allocated within the existing budget program, that's something that the council administration needs to look at very closely, because this is an ongoing structural and systemic problem that we seem to be kicking the can down the road. And as a result, we just have more potholes and more cracked footpaths and more muddy footpaths because the drainage work that needs to be done hasn't been done.
Further speakers to the amendment? I see no hands. Councillor Johnston.
Thank you. I think Councillor Sri, he makes an excellent point there about the adverse impacts for the community and existing infrastructure when stormwater drain is under invested in. And that's the case completely with that situation at Chelmer. You know, there is a massive cleanup that has to go on every time that the drain, you know, doesn't function properly down there. Oxley Road is cut. You know, there are significant costs to council by failing to invest in the capital project that would alleviate the flooding impacts. And it is incredibly disappointing that council doesn't see that and take action to manage those impacts. And unfortunately, that's a problem all around Brisbane. What is significantly disappointing is that the new chair, Councillor Cunningham, has not even addressed this issue. I would just say that the Lord Mayor went to the election just a few months ago saying that he had an experienced team, and then he's put a very new councillor who's been here for about a year into the portfolio. And to this point, a number of things have happened. Firstly, this was a committee that I asked to be on earlier this year and have been on in the past. And despite the fact that Councillor Cassidy did not request to be on this committee, he was appointed to it, not me. And I think that shows that this administration is certainly deprioritising Tennyson Ward Parks issues by failing to include me and respect my request with respect to my inclusion on this committee. Secondly, these are issues that I have raised year after year with this council. These are issues I know that residents in my ward have raised with the chair, previous chair and the current chair, to be fair, but they've not had a response. So what's the value in this alleged experienced team that the Lord Mayor has when long-standing issues are not being addressed, the chairs of these committees are not responding to residents, when matters are brought to debate in this council as they are today, the LNP stay silent. They don't respond at all. There's no explanation about why they're going to vote this motion down. It doesn't affect anybody else's projects. It's well within the council budget. There's no reason these projects cannot be delivered. They're well within the scope of this budget, but they're not going to speak to why they're opposed to it. They're simply going to vote it down. And fourthly, we've got a brand new chair that can't even speak to an emotion in her portfolio. And I think that that is disappointing, because this would have been the opportunity for her to address the concerns that have been raised directly by residents with her. So I find it very disappointing, unless I'm about to be completely surprised and the LNP are just going to vote for this motion. But as I've been an independent for 10 years and they've never voted for one of the motions I've moved, I suspect that's unlikely. So can I just say, yeah, I know. Can I just say to my residents, I am in here at council working hard for you. I will continue to push the issues of importance in our community, and those absolutely include better stormwater drainage and backflow valves right around Tennyson Ward. I will, as I said yesterday, be publishing the results of all motions that I move in this place and how our councillors vote. And I will be making it clear to my residents that it is the LNP who are opposed to the improvements that are necessary in Tennyson Ward. I think they'd be shocked if they knew, what goes on in this council chamber. And I no longer will be silent about this, and I will be telling them.
All those in favour of the amendment, please say aye and raise your hands.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
And against the amendment, please say no and raise your hands. The noes have it.
Division.
Division called by Councillor Johnston.
Seconded.
Councillor Shree, please ring the bells.
Into my diary as well, so I know I can remind you. If you get a diary, I'll put you into my diary as well. No.
Councillors, those in favour of the amendment, please say aye and raise your hand and hold it there so it may be counted.
Aye.
Aye.
Please lower them. Those who do not support the amendment, please say no and raise your hand and hold it there so it may be counted.
No.
No.
Please lower them. Clerks, read the result when you're ready.
Mr. Chair, the noes have it, the voting being 2 in favour, 18 against and 4 abstentions.
The noes have it. We'll now return to substantive debate. Are there any further speakers? Councillor Hutton.
Thank you, Chair. I rise to speak on Program 3, Clean, Green and Sustainable City. I'd like to thank both Councillor Marks and Councillor Cunningham for all the work they've done in this program and delivering an excellent information session earlier this week. Program 3 is a very extensive and covers quite a lot of different areas across our city. I'd like to take some time to talk about the parks across our city. Brisbane has an expanding network of more than 2,100 parks, providing more than 6,000 hectares of urban parkland for residents to enjoy. I'd like to highlight one of the most exciting projects included in this budget, Victoria Park Vision. As we all know, this project will see Victoria Park Golf Course transformed into a 45-hectare park, the biggest created in almost 50 years. The transformation of Victoria Park represents a significant funding commitment of $83 million over the next 4 years. In this budget, the 15 million from our Green Future Fund, which has been financed by the returns from the City of Brisbane Investment Corporation. Councillor Griffiths mentioned before that he could not find the 15 million in the budget book, but it is listed on page 53 under Delivering Iconic Parks for Brisbane. This funding will develop the final version and implementation plan for this transformation. Victoria Park will become a natural retreat, an urban park for adventure, discovery and reconnection. A cultural hub will celebrate Brisbane's heritage and natural environment. The park will feature native bushland pockets and waterholes where visitors can enjoy kayaking and swimming lagoons. Architecture will mimic the landscape with a suspended canopy walk and a tree house so visitors can connect with nature day and night. This prime inner city location will include a community garden, giving visitors more to see and do. It will be culturally authentic, celebrating the many layers of human contact with the landscape and the site's significance to Aboriginal people. Victoria Park is another way we're making Brisbane better for future generations, and I'm proud that it is a priority for our Lord Mayor. Another feature of this budget is the upgrade to neighbourhood parks to deliver the changing needs and expectations of our community. These upgrades are designed to ensure that Brisbane's parks provide a broad diversity of recreational opportunities and are enjoyed by as many people as possible, as delivering part of our new world city. For my local area, this budget has seen the installation of brand new amenity blocks at Lorikeet Park, a popular local playground in Mount Omni. As a mother of 3 boys, it brings me great joy to see these kinds of facilities in local parks. While being great for local families, it will also be utilised by local residents attending Centenary War Memorial Gardens for the ever-growing Anzac Day and Remembrance Day ceremonies. Another feature of this budget will excite Ellen Grove residents. They'll be thrilled to see the upgrade of play equipment in Carroll Park Community Park. This park is located behind Ellerack Place, which is a hub of activity with many services provided in this location. So these upgrades will be enjoyed by many, many residents in this area. I look forward to working with this local community to choose a design for this park to deliver a vibrant multi-use space for everyone to enjoy. While we all know how many locals love their dog parks, local fur families will be delighted to hear that this budget will extend the dog off-leash area at Jindalee Boat Ramp Park. This park was badly affected in 2011 floods, where a large section of the bank was lost to the river. These funds will be used to extend and upgrade this facility, returning it to a full-size dog off-leash area. I move on to speak about the Parks and Maintenance Renewal Program. I'm delighted to see that over $3 million is allocated in this budget to maintain 31 lakes, water bodies and ornamental parks across our ponds across our city. In my first couple of weeks as local councillor, I had residents highlight their concerns around the Edenbrook parklands. This 10.4 hectare park is a little paradise located in the heart of 17 Mile Rocks, featuring bike and walk paths, bridges, grassy fields, and of course, the lake. I'm delighted to see that Edenbrook Lake features in this program, improving the ecological health of this system. Residents will be delighted to see the water flowing, weeds removed, and the native birds, fish, and turtles back enjoying the lake. Another feature of this budget is Wilson's Walkway. This popular 1.2 kilometre bush walking track winds itself across Mount Omni's bushland reserves. The walkway, which features picturesque views of the bushland and the Brisbane River, will receive an upgrade to the timber boardwalks, bridges, crossings, and pathways. This restoration project will ensure residents can enjoy the scenic walk for years into the future. In my ward of Jamboree, we are spoilt for choice when it comes to parks, thanks to the former councillor. Rocks Riverside Parkland is probably the most prominent in my local area. I was speaking to a new resident earlier this week, and they were just so impressed by the sheer scale and magnificent work that Brisbane City Council have done in this area. There is a water play, 2 large playgrounds, a river promenade walk, and the Great Lawn, which hosts many functions and festivals. The parkland also hosts one of the biggest park runs in Australia, between 500 and 700 people turning up each week. The park was formerly owned by Queensland Cement and Lime Company, QCL, as it had a great source of fresh water, gravel and sand. Dead coral was brought up by the river from Moreton Bay to be used as a good substitute for lime when they were making cement for their Darra factory. The loading dock, also formerly known as the Oxley Jetty, has been deemed unsafe for many, many years. I'm proud to say that this budget is going to be assessing this dock and establishing it for future rehabilitation. Mr. Chair, equally important in this portfolio is a program of work that many residents don't actually see. That is drainage. I know that our council officers have spent hundreds of hours in Wakehole, clearing drains and ensuring we minimise flood impacts. I'm delighted to see that Colson's Road at Wakehole is featured in this budget, and many Wakehole residents will be cheering too. I would like to thank the incredible council officers, Adrian Patterson, Peter Lazaretti, and Shane Klepper, and their teams for the continued work they do across my ward. The other component of Program 3 is managing and reducing waste and ensuring we are creating a sustainable future for Brisbane. We know that yellow top bins in many households are filled by the end of each fortnight, so this budget initiative to provide larger recycling bins stops precious recyclable items from overflowing into the general waste. During the election, I was delighted to join the Lord Mayor at EnviroSand at Wakehole. EnviroSand is an Australian-owned company producing quality processed sands and powders made from 100% recycled glass. They recover glass waste previously destined for landfill, converting it into valuable glass sand and powders, which is then used to produce asphalt for BCC, pool filters, sandblasting products, and even high-end bench tops. I'm delighted that our council has this sustainable focus, and this larger recycling bin initiative will ensure more recycling will end up in the right place. Recycling kitchen scraps, garden clippings, and other forms of green waste is a powerful way to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and help the environment. It appears that Councillor Cumming and Councillor Cassidy are suffering FOMO regarding the FOGO bins. No need for FOMO, as this administration has made a commitment to provide a $70 rebate for compost and worm farms. This is a great way to improve behaviour change while also keeping green waste out of landfill. Right. At home, we have a giant composting system, so I'm looking forward to investing in my own worm farm to do our bit to keep our city clean and green. Mr. Chair, I want to respond to some of the comments that Councillor Johnson has raised. You would think that she has not received anything in this budget, and there is some favouritism towards LNP councillors. But I wanted to share with anyone listening at home, Councillor Johnson in this budget will receive 10.157 million, whilst my own ward will receive 7.1. I just wanted to put this information on record to reassure Tennyson residents that they are not forgotten. Finally, Chair, I would like to acknowledge the Lord Mayor and the respective chairs, Councillor Cunningham and Councillor Marks, for their continued commitment to ensuring that we have a clean, green and sustainable future. Thank you.
Further speakers? Councillor Strunk. Councillor Strunk, Councillor Strunk, could you please turn on your microphone?
Thank you. I thought I had it on. There you go. I just want to speak on Program 3 and just touch on a few items from outcomes 3.1 through to 3.5. Initially, I wanted to talk about what's been happening in my ward, but I think I want to commence by saying, you know, at this point in time, I never thought that there will be two issues or items and one item in this program that would resonate so much right throughout the Brisbane residents. And of course, the first one was Brisbane greeters and what's happened to them. And the second one, which I'm going to talk about very shortly, is the curbside collection. Who would have thought that with all the debate we've had so far, those would be the two items that the media would pick up on and run with, because it really, it's really two areas that the residents of Brisbane count on or think is a really great idea to promote our city.
Yeah, the big budget issues.
I take that interjection, Councillor Cummings. Curbside collection. Now, when the Lord Mayor announced that it was going to be set aside, or not so much disbanded, but set aside for 2 years, I thought, man, that's going to be really tough for a lot of people in my ward. But as it turned out, Lord Mayor, in my ward, Forest Lake, it's not 2 years, it's 3 years. Because this year, which is just finishing now, June was supposed to be curbside collection for Forest Lake Ward, which means my ward is not going to have a collection for 3 years. Now, I'll bet you, looking at the screen here and all the councillors, I bet you there's a few others that were canceled because of the COVID-19 for this year as well. So good luck with explaining that to your constituents. I've actually had to send out some volunteers, right, to go around to the streets in my ward, and they're out again today, putting a letter in the letterbox telling them what's actually happened, because a lot of them haven't picked up on this and they put the stuff out on the footpath, and I don't want them to be fined either. So yesterday we sent a volunteer out, 80 different letters delivered, and that was only in one small part of the Anala suburb. Okay, moving on. I also want to speak in regards to the sports fields, or the money in this program for sports fields. Again, we have, as I spoke about last year as well, we have 2 green spaces that are ready and that were purchased by Brisbane City Council some years ago, that are waiting for a development to happen, and they were really pretty much set aside for sporting fields. One is in Pine Road and one is in Waterford Road over at Ellen Grove. So these it's really sad to sort of see that these 2 sporting precincts that were purchased by council, costing millions and millions of dollars, are not being targeted for sporting field or recreational space upgrades. And I just want to point that out to the new chair. So we have this lovely bit of land that's been somewhat cleared, all ready to go, but no funding. But we have had funding for 2 precincts, or 1 park and a precinct, which I want to thank the Lord Mayor and the team for pushing these 2 along. The first one is Thrush Street Park here at Anala, which is really in the center of Anala, and it's receiving an upgrade, which probably hasn't had one for probably 20, 25 years. As I say, it's right next to our PCYC, the largest PCYC in Queensland, membership-wise. They're really looking forward to that as well, because it will give them a breakout area. But I want to focus a little bit on the lake, and I do appreciate Councillor Marks for coming out and visiting me a month or so ago. It was very much appreciated. And by the way, the harvester is back in, getting rid of that Savinia again, because the last harvesting, which happened a few weeks ago, took about 1,200 tons of Savinia. That's really a big number to get your head around. But anyways, there was a bit left over, and the small harvester's back in there and undertaking that work. But we put together Glenn Diskin, who was our parks, the council officer in charge of parks when I first became councillor. We got together with the community and did a master plan for the Lake Park precinct, and I'm glad to see that all those plans are really coming together now. And I would say in the next 12 months, all of that will have been completed. The one thing that we didn't, of course, count on in that master plan was all the problem we were going to have with water quality and waterborne weeds. So I just want to thank Tom McHugh, and Peter Sipma, Peter Owen, and Chris Daly, who have really grasped the issue there on the lake, and they're working with they're working with the team with a number of with a few people from Griffith University on the maintenance action plan for the water quality, and I'm glad to see that both the water weeds, or both the water weed is being harvested. We'll also have some desilting happening very shortly, and of course planting of the lake bed with plants that will actually absorb the nutrients and hopefully keep that blue Savinia or blue-green algae at bay. Moving on to FOGO, for what little time I have left, moving on for FOGO, I suggest that all councillors have a look at the Penrith website in regards to waste management down there in the Penrith Council, a very tiny council compared to Brisbane City Council, and what they're doing with FOGO, because honestly, the website is just so, listen, if we ever undertake this work, you should actually have a look at this website. It is so well done, easy to follow, easy to understand for residents. And of course, the green bins, certainly to my way of thinking. Of course, we have the red bin, and of course I think there's the take of about 30% for green bins across Brisbane now. But to convert those green bins into both organic and food waste on a weekly collection, which is what Penrith does, and then they collect the general waste every fortnight in their red bin, it just sort of makes sense. It wouldn't cost all that much to implement this sort of program, and I encourage Councillor Marks to have a really hard look at that, because I think it's a really good way of reducing our carbon emissions, or carbon emissions, and improving our recycling, which I think is something that I've always had an issue with these carbon credits. I think we should be doing our own work as much as we can, and we should actually have a plan to get there. So we're going to be carbon neutral under our own steam, under using our own work, right? Not buying someone else's work. And I know everyone does it. Businesses do it, councils do it. I know that's just a thing. But I think it's now time that we actually look and drill down a little bit deeper and find out what we can do to reduce our carbon emissions and become carbon neutral under our own steam. Just one quick thing. I just want to say thank you to the parks guys who also look after Isa Park, which is one of our memorial parks here in Inala. If anyone ever gets a chance to actually, that seems to be is driving by or driving down Inala Avenue, I suggest that you have a look at Isa Park, just not down far from the shopping center here. The amount of work and the care that our parks officers take with this little memorial park is astounding. It's probably the best park I've ever seen maintained. It's not big, but they do a terrific job. And I sat down with one of the guys who actually does some of the work there, and it's very dear to him, and it has been for a number of years. But it just goes to show what can be achieved when people really take an interest and a passion, and have a passion for that sort of work. I just want to conclude.
Councillor Strunk, your time has expired. Further speakers? Councillor Adaman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise metaphorically to speak about Mount Cootha in the Pullenvale ward and the Sherwood Arboretum, page 55, service 3.3.5.1. From 2020 to 2021, the curation of Sherwood Arboretum will be delivered from this service, previously delivered within service 3.3.3.2, parks maintenance and renewal. This move is to highlight Sherwood Arboretum leading into the garden's 100th anniversary in March 2025.
Arboretum, if you're going to talk.
Additionally, the Brisbane Botanic Gardens at Mount Cootha.
Stop, Councillor Adaman. Councillor Johnston, there's no need for that. You make regular errors when you speak in this place. Please don't have a go at someone. The word is arboretum. Yesterday, you called a Swiss company a Swedish company twice.
Oh, did I? Yeah.
People make small errors regularly. Please allow
Not when they're doing a hatchet job on someone else's ward.
Councillor Adderman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This move is to highlight the Sherwood Arboretum leading into the garden's 100th anniversary in March 2025. Additionally, the Brisbane Botanic Gardens at Mount Cootha will be celebrating its 50th anniversary in 2026. The Brisbane Botanic Gardens Mount Cootha are recognised as Queensland's premier subtropical botanical gardens. The 56-hectare gardens open daily and offer visitors a living museum of native and exotic plant collections featuring more than 250,000 plants representing approximately 5,000 species from around the world. Plants are displayed in subtly changing thematic and geographic communities. The theme sections include a fragrant garden, bamboo grove, arid zone, Japanese gardens, waterfalls, tropical dome, and the largest collection of Australian native rainforest trees in the world. The auditorium features horticultural shows most weekends, although these events are currently cancelled due to COVID. Currently, a number of Brisbane Botanic Gardens Mount Cootha assets constructed 30 plus years ago have reached or are reaching the end of their life. Council's endorsed Brisbane Botanic Gardens Mount Cootha Master Plan 2018 identifies asset investment priorities. A program of works will be undertaken over the next 5 years to ensure that the gardens present optimally for its 50th anniversary celebration. The following works are proposed to be undertaken as part of this project towards the anniversary. Irrigation reticulation upgrade to deliver a recycled water transfer line from Ross McKinnon Lagoon to Melaleuca Lake. Pedestrian pathway rehabilitation to rehabilitate and upgrade pathways throughout the gardens to address safety issues. Tree risk management, which will result in a management plan to manage the risk of tree limb fall to address workplace health and safety and visitor safety concerns. Implementation of the wayfinding strategy. A curated interpretive plan that will provide a consistent approach to the implementation of interpretive messages and projects, supported by a guide and design plan linked to wayfinding that will enhance the visitor experience and education programs. School entry facility upgrade, which will provide a shaded assembly area for school and other community groups to gather. Design and install new wall at the entrance to the gardens and reinstall destination signage. Upgrade children's trails with interactive activities and signage. Development of site-wide curated art strategy for sculptures, including engineering investigations. Stage 1 design to improve capacity for weddings and events on the fig tree lawn. Investigations, planning and design to support the redevelopment of iconic infrastructure and other asset investment priorities outlined in the Brisbane Botanic Gardens Mount Cootha Master Plan 2018, such as the bonsai house redevelopment, gardens tropical display dome, investigate gardens water supply for irrigation, which is critical for adapting to climate variability. In 2021, the budget for the completion of wayfinding signage in the Mount Cootha precinct to assist residents and visitors to move safely around the entire mountain and the Mount Cootha precinct has been transferred to this project. Stage 1 works were delivered in the 2019-20 in the Mount Cootha infrastructure project. Sherwood Arboretum is recognised as Brisbane's third botanic garden, which boasts an impressive collection of over 1,100 trees, representing approximately 250 species. This site features a number of botanical collections, including riverine, dry rainforest, scaberifol, fig avenue, freshwater wetlands, and the main attraction being a grand avenue of 72 kauri pines. Sherwood Arboretum is part of the Brisbane Botanic Gardens collection. As Councillor Cunningham mentioned, the Lord Mayor is a huge fan of the Mount Cootha Botanic Gardens and often meets with Ross McKinnon. And he recently met with the Friends of the Sherwood Arboretum and was very impressed.
Dale's the curator.
9 seconds, please.
He is excited to work with both of the Friends groups towards their 2025 100-year anniversary and the Arboretum's 2026 50th anniversary for Mount Cootha Botanic Gardens. And I trust Councillor Johnson will be equally excited to support the Friends and council officers towards this incredible milestone.
I've been doing it for 20 years.
Interjections, please. Councillor Johnston, I've had to name you a few times. If you interject again, I will move to the formal processes. Councillor Adaman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In conclusion, about Mount Cootha, some personal observations. It's wonderful now that people are able to get out and about, that the mountain appears to be more popular than it has ever been. During lockdown, people looking for new exercise options took on the very challenging tracks to the top of the mountain in large numbers. And I've never seen as many people enjoying the parks and gardens as much as they did on that first weekend families were allowed back out into the public spaces. To borrow a phrase, it was busier than Grand Central Station. My wife and I were just another anonymous couple in the crowd that Sunday, enjoying a picnic and one of the many wonderful walks on offer. It just reaffirmed the importance of retaining this jewel in the city's crown, which I'm proud is in the Pullen Vale ward, for all residents of Brisbane to enjoy. And I'm equally proud to be part of an administration that continues to support it to the extent that I've just outlined. Mr. Chair, in the time remaining, I would like to talk about other important projects in the Program 3 budget for my area. After the devastating bushfires of last summer, the Lord Mayor committed to investing in constructing fire breaks on a newly acquired land at Colo. This administration is committed to continue to wipe out weeds and maintain our Australia's most biodiverse city title. Mount Cootha Reserve is one of the many reserves that will benefit from this program. In total, 4,000 hectares or 40% of our reserve estate has been managed through this program. In the last term, the Schrinner administration purchased land on Priors Pocket Road through the Bushland Acquisition Program and the Green Futures Fund. This unique parcel of land is protected from residents for the residents of Brisbane. In the budget this year, the Lord Mayor has committed future funds through the Green Future Fund to complete site investigations and preliminary planning to enable future community use of this site. Our youngest residents of Bellbarry will also be excited to learn that there are 2 playgrounds being upgraded. One is in Pioneer Crescent Park and the other is in Constantine Place Park. We're investing over $300,000 in bringing them up to standard, and I look forward to discussing these improvements with the parents and kids in the neighbourhood of these local parks. Finally, funding for the Corona Downs water rehabilitation will reduce future erosion and flooding. This project will undertake natural waterway rehabilitation and construct drains along properties that back onto the Brisbane River at Illawong Way. Improving waterway health, quality and sustainability will help us achieve a healthy Brisbane River and Moreton Bay. This administration is dedicated to ensuring Brisbane remains clean, green and sustainable now and into the future. And part of this commitment is protecting our conservation reserves and waterway. These outcomes are not only terrific for residents, but also for the environment, and I commend Program 3 budget. Thank you.
Councillor Landers.
Mr. Chair, I move that Council now adjourn for lunch for 1 hour, which commences only when all councillors have left the meeting.
It's been moved by Councillor Landers, seconded by Councillor Hutton, that this council now adjourn for a period of 1 hour, for the purpose of lunch, commencing when all councillors have vacated the meeting. All those in favour, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
So hands, all those against, please say no and raise your hands. The ayes have it. Councillors, when you return from lunch, Councillor Toomey will be chairing the meeting. The meeting is now adjourned for lunch.